Good morning, colleagues. Just a minute, Mr. President. Colleagues, you will look much more beautiful if you just come forward. Please try to just come forward. I'm sure you want to see yourself on Facebook. All right. Good morning, everyone. Please let us stand for the national anthem. You may be seated. The best anthem in the world. Reverend Jermaine Rose from the Haddington New Testament Church in Trelawney, Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education and Youth, Mr. Winston Smith, President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Mrs. LaSonia Harrison, President-elect of the J.T.A., Mr. Jasford Gabriel, immediate past president, Dr. Dwayne Dice, keynote speaker and founder CEO of Education Solutions International, Mrs. Judy Villanova Dice, his wife, and their beautiful daughter, young Juliana. Where's Juliana? Oh, you can come to the front, Juliana. Oh, she's okay? Okay, welcome. All right. Dr. Mark Nicely, Secretary General, Mrs. Petal James, Chief Retail Sales, Jamaica National Bank, seated at the front. Dr. Margaret Chin, Assistant Secretary General, Professional Services. I hope I get this right. Shira, okay. Carrington James, she's our special guest. And she is currently the president of the Public Secondary Teachers Union, Secondary Association in Trinidad and Tobago, and a past president of the Association of Principals of Secondary Schools. So special welcome to you for visiting us in Jamaica. I'd like to welcome our conference participants, without whom we would not have had a conference. Members of the media, I would like to salute our own Miss Nadine Malloy, one of our trustees, who is also the Education International representative for the Caribbean, North America and the Caribbean region. Ms. Malloy, welcome. Members of the Planning and Programs Committee, member of staff of the J.T.A., all our exhibitors, welcome our rapporteurs, welcome one, welcome all. And without further ado, we have to start the day right. So I now invite Reverend Jermaine Rose from the Haddington New Testament Church of God, Church in Trelawney, to start our devotion and to start us right. Please make him feel welcome.
Pleasant morning to you all. I know my height, I have to make some adjustments here. Please just permit me to just make special mention of someone who I greatly admire, someone who would have played a role in my pastoral development in the person of our, well, you will call him Mr. Gabriel. Oh, Mrs. Gabriel is also here. You will call him Mr. Gabriel, but I refer to him as Brother Gabriel. He was an officer of the church where I did my intern in Manchester. It's a delight to see you, sir. God bless you. And also, Mrs. Gabriel, it's good to see you. Whenever I see people like this, it's just a pleasure for me to make special mention of them. So I am here this morning to share with you from the Word of God, and I promise I won't be long, because usually when the first person is long, everybody feel they can be long, not true? So I won't be long this morning, all right? I want to share with you, though, from a passage of Scripture in the book of Exodus, chapter 14 particularly. I'll be focusing on verse 10 to about verse 18 thereabout. It says, as Pharaoh approached the Israelites looking up, and, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Did we say to you, or didn't we say to you, in Egypt, leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians? It would be better, or it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. Moses answered the people, do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance of the Lord. The Egyptians you see today, you will see them again no more. Verse 14 says, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Then the Lord said to Moses, why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the heart of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. Let us stop there for today. You know, ladies and gentlemen, as I observe your theme today, I must personally say thanks to the teachers of our society. You know, perhaps I learned a little late the importance, the significance of teachers, because I'm one of those persons who, you know, would have wasted my time in our academic institutions. But it was after finishing school I recognized how important it is to really become educated. So I started late. But I want to say personally at this time, thank you for your contribution to our society. You know, oftentimes when we reflect in the media on teachers, sometimes it can become so negative. We can hear so many negative comments about our teachers, where teachers are not playing their role, they're not doing it right, and they're, you know, always some controversial topics. But I want to make special mention today of the value that you are adding to our society. You are still doing a good job. Praise the Lord. So I, as I reflected on your theme, sustainable innovation in education, retool, renew, reset, I was really questioning and trying to find a scripture that I could use to really, you know, express how I feel about this theme. And when I look on this text here in Exodus chapter 14, it really emphasized my heart's desire and what I would like to say to you today. When we look at this, we can readily grab the theme coming from this text here. Keep moving forward. Keep moving forward, teachers. It was Leo Christopher who said that moving on is being able to look back without the need of reaching back. The word Exodus, it carries the idea of to move out. And indeed, it speaks to the migration of the Israelites from Egypt to the promised land, which would have been promised to their forefathers. However, between Egypt and the promised land, there were some challenges that these special group of people had to go through. They had to go through many challenges and many hardships and disappointment. And that is what I want us to really wrestle with today as I share with you. We know the objective, we know the plan, we know our desires, we know what we are aiming towards. You would have sat and you would have discussed, and all of the plans are in place. So you know the goal that you are hoping to accomplish. But the truth is, sometimes we don't pay attention to the road that we have to use to get to that goal. I pastor in a community called Kinglas. I don't know how many persons know that community. The road to get to the church is horrible. It's very bad. But then sometimes I look on the goal and I'm like, okay, I need to go to church. And if I am not careful, sometimes I really make some unrealistic time frame. Because where I live could be like a 20 or a 15 minutes drive from there with good road condition. But then I forgot sometimes, the condition of the road. So I just would say, okay, in 15 minutes I will get to church, only to reach then 45 because of the condition of the road. So sometimes when we are aiming towards something, we know we have the plan, we get the vision from the Lord that this is where He wants to take us, But then sometimes we don't consider the process. And the moment the rubber hits the road, we become frustrated and we start to ask ourselves, is this really the vision? Is this really the plan? Is this really what God would desire of me? That's the reality. Because we were expecting good weather conditions, we are expecting to have a great road, we are expecting that all will be well because we get the vision. The plan is great. We sat and we went through everything that we need to so that our children will be well educated, and we are hoping that we can reach all of them and we will be well effective, and our schools, our classrooms, they will be the best among all the others in society. But I want you to know that the truth is there is a process, there is a road to get there that might not have a good condition. The road might be rough to get there, and that is what the Israelites faced here. But I want to share about 3 ideas with you from the text. The first thing is that I want you to trust the process. It's important that you trust the process. Because the thing about Israel is, Israel would have seen what God did for them back in Egypt. They know the power of God. They saw that they were in bondage for 400 years. And all of this that they went through, and Moses came on many occasions and said to Pharaoh, let my people go. God is saying that He needs His people to go and to worship Him. God has a plan for His people. And Pharaoh many times would have denied Moses. And there were different plagues and there were different miracles that they would have seen in that time. So they saw all of this thing happening. So they know the God that they serve. They know the power that God has. But right here, when, as I said before, rubber hit the road, when the process to the promised land become very hard and rough and tough, they begin to look back and say, you know what, Moses, it would have been better if you left us in Egypt, because in Egypt, life was way better. We might have been slaves, but guess what? We better we die there than to come in the desert and die. And that's the mindset of many of us. We feel as if the past is much better than where we are heading. So as you look on your theme here and you recognize that it is time for you to retool, it's time for you to renew, it's time for you to reset, you say, hold on a little bit. I feel the past is better because what we are seeing now, the results of today, it doesn't look so nice. So it's best if we go back instead of going forward. Because when we look ahead, we are seeing danger, we are seeing a Red Sea, we are seeing a vast desert. We don't know how we are going to make it to this promised land. So perhaps the plan was not realistic. But I challenge you today to trust the process. The same God that bring you out of Egypt to this Red Sea that you are now standing at is the same God that can bring you through the Red Sea. You might be asking me how it's going to take a miracle, but God can do it. And I feel as if we need to become that kind of a nation that understand that the trouble that our nation is in, the trouble that our school is in, it is more than going to take psychological and emotional training. It is going to take faith. We need to understand that. And when we get that, then we will begin to trust the process, because we recognize now that, guess what? This is not my own effort that I am using here. It is not my own strength that I am using here, because I have good lesson plans. I have good ideas for my class. I have good hope for my students. But the truth is, I need more than that. I need the help of God. So, as I see the obstacles, I recognize that I am going to need the strength of God to make this thing effective. Because there are some children, that are in poor parenting home, and they need your help. Some of them, they are acting out and behaving wild, but they need your help. So it's going to take more than you, because you have your own frustration at home. You have your own children at home. You have your own issues to maneuver and to handle. But I am challenging you today, teachers, to become people of faith, where you understand that God can give you the strength that you need to impact a society. We cannot give up. Yes, we are seeing gatherings in our school. We are seeing death in our school. Oh my God. We are seeing so many things happening in our school. And the temptation is on us, where we want to just step back and say, guess what? It's best if I leave this alone. But I challenge you. Trust the process. You're doing a good work. You're doing a good work. I feel like greater is coming out. I feel like the vast majority is the better. I honestly believe that, teachers. So as you trust the process, I also want to encourage you to overcome the obstacles. Overcome the obstacles. Because the truth is, when you retool, renew, and reset, you will still see your past coming back, and you wonder if you make the right decision. So the Israelites of Pharaoh coming at them, the army was still coming back for them. And when they look ahead, all they can see is a Red Sea, just water in front of them. So everything now looks impossible. They feel as if they are wasting their time. Have you ever felt that level of frustration, teachers? You feel like you're preparing the students for Jesus. I have a few teachers in my church, and sometimes I just listen to them speak, and they feel so frustrated sometimes. They get so overwhelmed. They feel as if, you know what, I don't know what else to do, because I am doing my best, and you just feel like giving up. You wonder, this is going to take a miracle. Yes, miracles still happen. So here Moses is saying, God, I need your help. And God said to Moses, I have given you all that you need to be successful. I am giving you all that you need to work miracles. Raise your hand over the sea, and you will triumph. Teachers, you have all that it takes to be effective. The Lord is on your side. Continue to be prayerful. Continue to be impactful. Continue to work hard. The society thanks you. Let me invite everyone to stand at this time while I pray for you. Father, we bless your name this morning, Lord. We thank you, O God Almighty, for this group of teachers that you have instituted in our society. God Almighty, we believe that every leader and governance is in place through you. We believe that Jamaica is in your hand, and that you are strategic and you have planned it out, oh God Almighty. You would have known that they would be here today, hearing from you and hearing your word. I pray, God, that you will motivate them, that you will give them strength, that you will give them all that they need to be successful in impacting impacting positively the next generation. God, I pray that you will give them new ideas. You will help them to retool, to reset, God, all that they need to be effective and to transform a generation that seems to be going downhill. I pray that you will give them all that they need, oh God Almighty. In Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen. I thank you this morning. God bless you.
Boy, nobody have to do better than that. After such a Reverend Dermain Rose, just what we wanted. Don't look back. Hallelujah, don't look back. Trust the process. Amen. One more time for him. The Lord used you, my brother. I hope he will continue to use you, and we thank our Western region for recommending you to us. Good morning again, colleagues. Welcome to the J.T.A's Education Conference 2022, which is being held under the theme Sustainable Innovations in Education, Retool, Renew, Reset. Each year, the J.T.A. organizes and hosts an education conference, which is planned by a planning committee, which comprises various subcommittees, including the programs committee. The theme is timely, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic that has caused educators, educational leaders, and stakeholders to pivot and produce sustainable educational programs and innovations that will enable quality education for all students. Some of the sustainable innovations may include competency-based learning, video streaming or flipped classroom or e-learning trends, or digital textbooks, to name a few. Sustainable innovation is inclusive and has more impact if it has a system-wide focus. Another key component is work-life balance to underscore the value of self-care, and COVID-19 has really taught us that, the importance of self-care in our daily lives. The Sustainable Development Goal, SDG 4, indicates that the education system should ensure that there is inclusive and quality education for all and the promotion of lifelong learning. And as educators, we are all, and we should be, lifelong learners. The conference program brings together a wide range of ideas that will yield abundance for a sustainable future. It includes ideas about various innovations, preparing our students for future generations, what the future of work will look like, how educational institutions can harness their talent pool and knowledge base to their competitive advantage. Learn as much as you can. Build learning communities that are effective. Take back innovative ideas to your schools. It is imperative for workers to upskill, as this is the process of learning new skills or of teaching workers new skills. The research has shown that a culture of upskilling ensures that employees learn new advanced skills to close the talent gap. It involves your team members in continuous education and helps them to advance along their current career path. Colleagues, welcome again to the J.T.A. 2022 Education Conference, and we pride ourselves in putting on the best professional development activity just about anywhere in Jamaica and regionally. I now invite our Secretary General, Dr. Mark Nicely, and I believe this is his first education conference as Sec Gen, and he will bring remarks. Dr. Nicely.
Dr. Charmaine Gooden-Monteith, Chairman and Deputy Secretary General, Admin, HR and Finance, or Reverend Dermain Rose, Haddington New Testament Church, Trelawney. You know, Mr. Rose, if our immediate past president, Gabriel, was a paid employee, we would have to increase his salary by virtue of your performance, but he's not. The Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education and Youth in the Ministry of Education, Mr. Winston Smith, our J.T.A. President, Mrs. Lasagna Harrison, our president-elect, and Mr. Jasford Gabriel, immediate past president, and of course, Mrs. Gabriel is here along with him. Dr. Dwayne Dice, keynote speaker, my friend and brother and colleague, and founder and CEO of Education Solutions International. He has accompanying him Mrs. Dice and young daughter Juliana. We welcome you. And of course, Mrs. Petal James, my colleague JP in Kingston, and she's the Chief Retail Sales Manager at the JN Bank. Dr. Margaret Chin, Assistant Secretary General, Professional Services, presenters, conference participants, members of the media, members of the Planning and Programs Committees, members of staff of the J.T.A, exhibitors, a pleasant morning to you all. I want to extend the welcome to my mother and two daughters, and I'd ask them all to stand. Right, and perhaps I'd probably start with a story relating to my mother, just to get me started. So the Secretary General of the J.T.A has difficult meetings. Normally they are labeled as Central Executive, General Council meeting, and certainly annual conference. And usually before one of those meetings, they are always difficult, I would call her into another meeting. And I say, Mom, I'm going into a difficult meeting. And she would stop what she's doing, she would sit down, and she would give me her undivided attention. And then I would start to express to her and lament all the difficulties I'm probably anticipating. And she would give you all the verbal, signals that she's listening very keenly. And because she does so, I tell her more and more in anticipation of her telling me the answers to my problems. And when I'm finished talking, she ascertains that I'm finished, and then she says to me, now you know what the challenges are, go and prepare for them. I probably want to start there and to say to all of us that when we would have concluded this conference, we're going to know what the challenges are. And hopefully during the conference and thereafter, we're going to prepare for those challenges. But I want to say one other thing before I get to my brief remarks. Fundraising, Madam Minister, is very popular in the schools. Fundraising, and it happens in the public and the private, and somewhere I think the president is going to allude to it. And so my daughter's school had fundraising, and they were selling Easter buns, and I purchased one. Naturally, the school is going to get something off it, and so I participated. So on Thursday last, we were to collect the buns, and so I went early in the morning. The distributors of the buns were not there, and so I sat outside patiently waiting to collect. Some teachers passed me, going and coming, and then three of them, Madam Minister, came to me and said, what is happening? Why are you here waiting? So I said, bun, I'm here to pick up bun. And they looked at me in amazement and they said, you are one of the few men we know just sit patiently waiting to get bun. And I'm not sure if this is part of the hidden curriculum, but they proceeded to give me a lesson in why not to do what apparently I was doing. And I'm asking you to use that to commence your conversation with our guest from Trinidad and Tobago, and so on. So I've learned about that. What I was told by Ms. Petal Williams, who is one of our regional officers, that I need to be specific. I need to say it's Easter bun that I'm here to collect and not just bun. In the box and all of those things. Okay, so it is, I greet you well this morning, and I thank God for this gathering. And I pray for the safety of your families, because I know that many of you have left your families at home. I pray that God's divine presence will journey with us and cause us to have a safe, productive, engaging, and purposeful conference. We know that your presence here represents an investment of time, commitment, resources, with the ultimate goal of contributing to the greater good and, more specifically, advancing the welfare of our nation's children, the education system, and positively impacting nation building. Even as we accept the lofty goals of this conference, I invite us to deeply reflect on why we are here and what we hope to achieve post this engagement. I am hopeful our presence here has very little to do with simply fulfilling the tradition of having an education conference, or making a statement that, like many others, we are participating in bursting the bubble which the COVID-19 pandemic has created for us for over 2 years. The theme of this year's conference suggests otherwise: sustainable innovations in education, retool, renew, reset. Such a theme requests that each of us reflect and review our own involvement in the education system, and by extension, recommit to putting our shoulders to the wheel of propelling education. In closing, as we reflect, may I invite us to question ourselves against the background of understanding or undertaking a health assessment of our education system. Is there something wrong with our education system? And if so, what is wrong? Are there gaps in our education system? And if so, why? And what are they? And how will we resolve them? I want for you to ask yourselves a serious question without preferring a knee-jerk response. Who or what has been the focus of our education system? And is the current system relevant for the emerging needs of education? And there are many others that I want you to fill in as you go through these few days. But there's one I want to single out, and it's personal. I want you to take it personal. Have I been playing my role? And what is my role in advancing education? The invitation, therefore, is to look at the men and women in the mirror. A significant burden of advancing education in Jamaica rests on the shoulders of administrators and teachers whose boots are on the ground. I must admit that a glitzy setting like this one can send the wrong message. It communicates spectators, you, and performers, I should say, the person sitting on the podium, in the same way that church communicates preachers and congregations. Education is everybody's business. It is not a case of we watch and they perform. I wish to comment briefly in closing on our theme, which I believe was divinely coined by our forefathers. It says simply, unite and serve. Oftentimes, we interpret that unite as unity among teachers. I believe our forefathers did not mean it to be that way. It is unity, yes, among our teachers, with the Ministry of Education, with parents, with corporate Jamaica, with the government of Jamaica, and the list goes on. That's the kind of unity that I believe our forefathers wanted us to embrace. And so the wish and the desire is for us to have a strong, resilient network of stakeholders, and that together we will truly unite and serve. May God help us to that end. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's hear it again for our Secretary General. You can imagine having him every day. We are always giggling. He's always giving us jokes. Oh boy, thank you so much, Sec Gen. help me welcome our Minister of Education and Youth, Honorable Favour Williams, and we are always delighted to have our minister with us. Let us hear it for our minister.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Awesome. Let me begin by acknowledging Mr. Winston Smith, President of the J.T.A., Dr. Mark Nicely, Secretary General, who we just heard from, with lots of good, sober words this morning. Give him a round of applause again. He asked us that important question, have I been playing my role? What is my role in advancing education? Let me acknowledge as well Mrs. LaSonia Harrison, President-elect, J.T.A., yes. Dr. Charmaine Gooden-Monteith, Deputy Secretary General, Administration, HRD and Finance, all the other members of the executive of the J.T.A., Dr. Dwayne Dice, Founder, CEO, Education Solutions International, Ms. Patel James, Head of Branches, JN Bank, Reverend Rose of Haddington New Testament Church of God, thank you for the devotion this morning. Other specially invited guests, conference participants, media, exhibitors, students, and I see a few of them in the audience this morning. Good morning. I greet you well as you, how could I miss acknowledging Mr. Gabriel, past president, and Mrs. Gabriel. Additionally, I see Ms. Malloy in the front benches, a past president as well. I greet you well as you convene another annual education conference. Your theme, sustainable innovation in education, retool, renew, reset. I consider this a very serious theme for this year's annual education conference. And I say that because as I reflect on it, it is perfectly aligned with my sectorial that I presented in Parliament last Tuesday. And so I call on the conceptualizers and members of the J.T.A. to not just make this a theme for this year's annual education conference, but to see how this one can make an impact on improving educational outcomes. And when you gather back here next year, to look back to see how this Education Conference 2022 sparked any innovation, any retooling, any renewal, or any reset in education. My expectation is that it will do all of the above. I do believe, and by your theme I take it that you also believe, that innovation is required in education and that the innovation must be sustained. That is, innovation must continue for an extended period or without interruption. And I want to hasten to say that innovation does not mean creating something from nothing. Innovation in education is doing things in a new way. One educator said, innovation in education encourages teachers and students to explore, research, and use all the tools to uncover something new. It involves a different way of looking at problems and solving them. The thinking process that goes into it will help students develop their creativity and their problem-solving skills. Just like with any good science project, innovation relies on researching existing solutions to come up with a new hypothesis to test. A new hypothesis to test is that innovation in education is calling for an education of the heart. For centuries, educational systems have long stressed academic achievement and individual advancement. I'm not advocating that we stop stressing these. I'm advocating that in addition to academic achievement and individual advancement, we explicitly promote pro-social behaviors and nurture wholesome qualities such as empathy, compassion, and altruism in our students. And I acknowledge that many schools have enthusiastically embraced this, and I implore all our schools to continue to do so. The innovation we need in education in 2022 is a deep understanding of how we educate today's children to be compassionate, kind, and caring citizens. Thank you. An organization called Mind and Life said, "We need to help educators to better manage stress and reconnect to their passion for teaching so that they have classrooms that provide more support and safety for children." That organization also said we should combine today's focus on social and emotional learning with the teaching of contemplative practices. That we should nurture positive behavior and an appreciation for shared humanity. That we should engage and listen to young people whose voices and perspectives are critical to renewing educational systems. I know that these changes are not easy, but we must take them on if we want to see systemic shifts in education. The road to educational renewal is a long one. You, our educators, have to lead the way forward. Nobel Prize winner in literature and poet William Butler Yeats is credited with saying that education should not be the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. Philosopher Socrates put it slightly differently. He said, "The mind is not a vessel that needs filling, but wood that needs igniting. For the mind does not require filling like a bottle, but rather like wood, it only requires kindling, to create in it an impulse to think independently and an ardent desire for the truth." If we truly believe this concept of education, then all of us as educators bear the responsibility of helping our nation's children to lead a richer and fuller life and develop their mental and spiritual qualities to the utmost. So as we reflect on innovation, what is it? I see our teachers being very innovative as we all lived through the pandemic. You had to pivot very quickly to learn the virtual space, to create classrooms, to keep the majority of our children engaged with their education. That was innovation, right? You did something that you had never done before. And we did it, right? We did it on scale. We did it across the education sector, not just in a few schools. That was innovation. And so you can imagine how disappointed I am when I visit some classrooms and I see teachers not engaging, not integrating the technology in the learning process. And I know that technology will help us in education. I don't see many teachers using their laptops that the J.T.A. fought so hard for you to get. Okay, maybe they're all high school teachers here this morning then. You're primary school teachers here, because I know we started it. No. And early childhood. Well, I know we started in the primary schools. We started in the primary schools. And I know we're not completed. I got the numbers this morning, and they are almost at 7,000 teachers who would have redeemed their vouchers. So there are a lot of teachers. Yeah, yes, yes. All right. So those are the numbers I have. I'll go back and ensure, because we keep very good check of it. It is all done electronically, so we know precisely how many. And so, but the point is, I would love to see many, many more of our teachers integrate technology in the learning process. It can help you in helping our students. As the world looks to the future and ways to safely return to normal, in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have a unique opportunity to reset and redefine what this normal looks like. For the education sector, this is a chance to take a close look at aspects of the education system that we've taken for granted for far too long. Increasingly, innovation in education at school is more than just a buzzword. It's fast becoming a way of learning and teaching for both students and teachers. Innovation in education encourages students and teachers to research, explore, and use all the tools to uncover something new. As you look in the literature, it tells us many ways we can build complex skills in students. We can encourage students to use complex tools to complete their projects, and there are many of those online. I could list you a few. It tells us that we develop creativity by ensuring that students find innovative uses of everyday projects, and I was delighted to see recently students from Marcus Garvey Technical School, Brownstown High School, Red Hills Primary School, with their anything but a bag to make a bag day. That's creativity, that's innovation, yes. We have to innovate in how we deal with violence in our schools as well. In assessing the violence in schools, the root causes and the intervention plans to bring to bear, our efforts will be futile unless we understand the environment in the homes and communities from which our children come. Since June of last year, we've assembled many professionals in a task force called Character Education Task Force. They've helped us to understand. Certainly, they've increased my understanding of the science behind adverse childhood experience, or ACE, and the need for many of our parents, the adults and guardians in our homes, to have a paradigm shift from blame, shame, and punishment of our young children to understanding, nurturing, and healing. That's innovation. More important is that the Ministry of Education and Youth, to begin to have our educators in our classrooms and teaching colleges understand what is trauma-informed teaching. This starts with an awareness of how trauma can impact learning and behavior. The experts tell us that with this approach, our educators will think about what students' behavior may be telling them. And in so doing, they will find ways to better support students who may be experiencing trauma. This would be innovation in education. And what is trauma, says the professionals? An intense source of stress that many children experience, which can come from many sources, mainly poverty, physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, community violence, and corporal punishment that is still practiced in many homes in Jamaica. We know as well that these sources of stress on our children can lead to drug addiction, violence, and other harmful behaviors that play themselves out in our schools. Yes, we understand that it's not just the metal detectors, the random searches, and more resource officers. It has to be a fundamental shift for which our schools have to play an enormous role. Our schools have to innovate. Between April 2021 and March 2022, 12,642 cases of child abuse came to the Child Protection and Family Support Agency, CPFSA. That number should shake you someplace in your heart today. Add to this the many unreported instances of slapping, beating with an implement, pinching, and the psychologically aggressive methods of quarreling, shouting, denying food, swearing, cursing. And you see the hell from which many of our children come. When these students show up in the classrooms, they are on edge. The slightest word can get them off. The Jamaica Survey of Living Conditions 2019 shows the statistics on corporal punishment and psychologically aggressive punishment methods that still continue to be meted out to our children in the age group of 0 to 9 years old. It continues to be frightening. The efforts we're making this year in collaboration with the Ministry of National Security to reach 97,000 parents, to do risk assessment and get our most at-risk parents the appropriate parenting program and support, is in recognition that if we don't change how our mothers, our fathers, and our caregivers handle our young children, we will be constantly running after the problem instead of being ahead of it. We have to innovate. We have to engage how we engage with our students. We have to support our teachers as well. We recognize that our teachers need psychosocial support. And we've started this. The Jamaica Teaching Council provided virtual support group sessions for teachers entitled Return to Happiness. Teachers were engaged in 6 weeks of activities, including mindfulness, journaling, and skill development in coping and emotional awareness. The only thing I was disappointed for was when we looked at the numbers. We would have expected many, many more teachers to take advantage of that session. But we will continue. We will continue this innovation in education to see to the psychosocial well-being of our teachers. In recognizing the learning problems in our primary schools, that we need to do something different in order to better prepare our students for high school, we're advanced in the implementation of the primary specialist teacher model in our primary schools. This is innovation in the education system. The model is designed to help primary schools and primary school teachers transition from the generalist approach to specialist teachers deployed at the primary level of the education system. Teachers are therefore required to specialize in one of 8 defined areas aligned to the national standards curriculum: mathematics and science, language arts and social studies, language arts and Spanish, music, visual arts and drama, HFLE and PE, religious education and civics and STEM. To date, 378 schools, approximately 4,500 teachers, are advanced in the implementation of the model. A further 191 schools are scheduled to implement the model beginning September 2022, with the final 173 set to begin in September 2023. And the ministry has been providing support to the schools. This is innovation in education. This year, it's costing us $378 million to do this. We expect that over a 5-year period, $2 billion will be spent to upgrade the competencies of teachers in alignment with this model. This is innovation in education. Coding in Schools program is another innovation in education. May of last year, our pilot Coding in Schools program was launched in collaboration with Amber Innovations Group, targeting 2,000 students in grades 4 and 9. After an assessment by the Ministry's Planning and Development Division on its effectiveness and follow-up periodic discussions with stakeholders, it was determined that we're now at the point where we could expand it to more schools across the island. And we have begun the rollout of that, and obviously we are training our teachers as well in coding in schools to increase their knowledge and their appreciation for ICT as well. Coding in schools is innovation in education. And finally, our Sixth Form Pathways program is innovation in education. In the first instance, it is learning loss mitigation strategy for those who ended grade 11 last year with significantly reduced education levels, having lost almost 2 years as a result of the pandemic. They have a chance now to recover those 2 years in the Sixth Form Pathways program, especially Pathways 2 and 3. But it's more than a pandemic loss mitigation, much more. These two programs are for those students who get to grade 11 and want to have a chance at tertiary education or a good job, despite not being able to access the traditional Sixth Form pathways, the Sixth Form program primarily offered by traditional high schools. It is to give those students a fighting chance that we've created 2 new pathways, Pathways 2 and 3, with a focus on providing students with an opportunity to meet the minimum certification standard and support them towards attaining an associate degree by the end of grade 13 in any of the following: occupational associate degree, a certificate or diploma within an occupational discipline, an accredited Council of Community College of Jamaica or University Council of Jamaica associate degree, additional CSEC and City and Guild subject to include math and English, National Vocational Qualification Jamaica and or Caribbean Vocational Qualification Level 2 or 3. And as you know, the Caribbean Vocational Qualification allows you to work anywhere in the Caribbean. The National Vocational Qualification Jamaica Level 3 is also equivalent to an associate degree on the National Qualification Framework of Jamaica. This is the opportunity that we've opened up for over 20,000 students who would not otherwise have this opportunity for certification. That is innovation in education. We know the statistics. Every year, the Jamaica Survey of Living Condition tells us, in 2019, it told us that 65.2% of the prime working age population in Jamaica do not have academic certification. So this begs for our action. And with our Sixth Form Pathways 2 and 3 programs, we expect to see an increase in the percentage of prime age working population that have certification in the years to come, because we have deliberately targeted certification and the effort will be sustained. This is innovation in education. So in closing, ladies and gentlemen, educators all, few values are so universal as education. Education is often seen as the solution to a number of societal ills and the lack thereof as the blame. So sustainable education, innovation in education is a must. And again, innovation does not mean creating something from nothing. Innovation in education speaks to doing things in a new way. Education of the heart, not just the mind, is innovation in education. Helping educators manage stress and reconnect to their passion for teaching is innovation in education. Combining social and emotional learning with contemplative practices is innovation in education. Nurturing positive behavior and an appreciation of our shared humanity so our children learn to peacefully resolve conflict is innovation in education. Attracting back the 30,000 plus students to re-engage them requires learning that ignites passion. This will require real innovation in education. Increasing our collective understanding of how the trauma of slapping, beating with an implement, pinching, quarreling, shouting, denying food, swearing, and cursing degrade or children. Having the boldness to shift from blaming, shaming, and punishing to understanding, nurturing, and healing requires innovation in education, and innovate we must. Setting a goal and taking the action to reach 97,000 parents, to engage them in a personalized way so that they better relate to their children is innovation in education. We know that the most accurate predictor of academic achievement is not socioeconomic status, not how prestigious the school is that a child attends. The research says that the best predictor of student success is the extent to which families encourage learning at home and involve themselves in their children's education. Now that would be real innovation in education. Ladies and gentlemen, I will stop here and wish for you a great conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Minister. Let's hear it again for our Minister. Educating from the heart, or education of the heart. Much food for thought, Minister. All right, so we're moving. We have to make up some time. All right, I now invite Miss Petal James, Chief, Retail Sales, J.N. Bank, to come and just greet us. Please make her feel welcome. And J.N. is our major sponsor this year. You have to clap better than that so it can be bigger next year. All right.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Charmaine Gooden Monteith, Chairman, Deputy Secretary General, Admin, HRD, and Finance. Reverend Dermain Rose, I believe he has left us. Addington New Testament Church. The Honorable Favor Williams, Minister of Education and Youth. Mr. Winston Smith, J.T.A. President. Mrs. LaSonia Harrison, President-elect, J.T.A. Mr. Jasford Gabriel, immediate past President, J.T.A. Dr. Wayne Dice, our keynote speaker today, founder, CEO, Education Solutions International. His wife and daughter, they're here too. Dr. Nicely, Secretary General. Dr. Margaret Chin, Assistant Secretary General, Professional Services, presenters, conference participants, members of the media, members of the Planning and Programs Committees, members of staff of the J.T.A. We want to welcome our staff members from J.N. Bank who are here with us today. Exhibitors, good morning. I am delighted to be here with you today and to be participating in another J.T.A. Education Conference. It is always a pleasure for us to interact with our educators. And as always, I take this opportunity to extend appreciation to you for the tremendous work you continue to do. We saw over the last 2 years the tremendous work our teachers have been putting out with little or with the resources they have. And so we thank you for the tremendous work that you continue to do. Over the last 2 years, it has not been easy, but you have all remained dedicated and have done your best to continue to impart knowledge and to mold the minds of our future generations. At J.N. Bank, we do not take the relationship which we have forged with our public servants highly. In fact, the bank have instituted a unit called the Public Sector Engagement Sale Unit. And that speaks to the level of commitment we have, to the public sector groups across the island, and particularly our educators who share the responsibility to weave the minds of our nation. While you serve us, we must serve you by assisting you to achieve your best self. You also need to have confidence that you can achieve material success and peace of mind as you give of yourselves daily. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this opportunity to talk to you today about some of the offers we have put together specifically for public sector workers, particularly as it relates to mortgages and home ownership. I'm sure home ownership is a top 5 goal of every public sector worker, and I know our teachers are no different. I have good news for you today. With the J.A. Bank, this dream can become a reality. Jamaica's real estate sector has remained very strong despite the many social and economic challenges that have beset us over the past 2 years. Now, the sector has not been without its challenges, as we see where the recent rise in inflation has begun to affect interest rates. We know that Bank of Jamaica just recently increased deposit rates by about 1.5 basis points recently. They're now up to 4%, which will certainly have an impact on existing mortgage rates. But despite this reality, the market continues to be buoyant and the demand for housing continues to be strong. In fact, over the last 2 years, we thought that the real estate sector would have, crumbled a little bit, but it was one of the most buoyant and most high-performing sectors, real estate industry. So despite the many positives, the reality is that if you're a first-time home buyer, especially if you're a part of the public sector, the current economy would have certainly caused you to think twice about your home ownership dreams. With rising home prices and inflation increasing the cost of life's basic expenses, the questions on your mind might be, is now really the time to take on a mortgage? It's always now to take on a mortgage, yes. And if I wait, could I lose my chance for ever owning a home? Or could I be priced out of the market completely? You could be, because the price today may not be the price tomorrow because of the kind of market the real estate operates in. You buy something today and tomorrow it goes up. It's one of the most sure investments that you could ever have. So while these are valid concerns, I can assure you that the real estate sector remains one of the most rewarding investments you can make. The fact is that a predictable mortgage payment each month not only helps you hedge against rising prices elsewhere in the economy, but homeowners typically also have a net worth that's much greater than renters. Buying, even if you must start small, is a path to building wealth. This is because buying a house means, 1, you're building equity versus paying rent. Each time you make a mortgage payment, you essentially build a bit of equity in your home as long as there isn't a housing crash. Each month you pay rent, you're only building your landlord's equity. Appreciation. Your net worth increases when the value of your home increases. In the current market, where housing supply and interest rates are low, home prices continue to rise, adding to your net worth and future resale value. Now, here are some criteria you can use to help evaluate whether your desire to buy translates into wise financial decision at this time. I must encourage you teachers, some of you do extra lessons, and so we want to let you know that even those extra lesson money, please to put it into a savings account each month or each week or fortnight, because we do use those income streams as well to help you to find a way and help you to become eligible for your home. So if you do monthly, what you call it? No, if you do classes, however, ensure you pass it through a bank account, because it can be used as additional income to in addition to your regular income that you get from the ministry or from your school, right? So I'm just encouraging you. Some of us just collect the cash and we use it, pass it through the account and we can account for it, yeah? A mortgage payment will be less or equal to rent. Do your homework and work out whether renting versus buying makes sense for your unique situation. You can use our mortgage calculator at jmbank.com to crunch the numbers. We're on the outside, so you can come and visit us shortly to see what your mortgage payments would be for the home you want to buy. And I'll tell you that your first home is never normally your dream home. It's only a stepping stone to the next home that you want to purchase, yeah? So even if it's a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, it's never your first home is never always the house on the hill. It's always the one that you start with. And you'll be surprised that you start with it today, and tomorrow it appreciates in value. You may not even want to sell it. You can rent it out. Use it as rental income as well, as part of for the next home, yeah? You have a down payment saved up. You've done your research and how much you want to put down on a house, the type of mortgage you can get, and have the money already saved up in the bank. If any of these are true, then you're on your way to make a wise investment. Also consider if you're struggling with a down payment. We do know that sometimes, you know, things are happening. You know, you have the children to send to school. You have other extenuating circumstances and competing priorities, and so we also can assist you in, you know, in getting that shortfall up. So if you want a bit more in the bank before you put a down payment on your first home, you can, or you could be better off building your savings. You could use some time to improve your finances, paying down debt, boosting your credit score, and building your emergency savings could earn you a better interest rate in the future. If you want to buy a home or you want to invest in real estate, get rid of the high interest paying debts, yeah? Start saving from now. You can't be looking at, you know, wanting to own your own home and then you, and I say you can't buy a big car, you know, but you have to prioritize, you know? The big car can come after because the big car can take you from Trelawney to Kingston just like the little more efficient one, right? So we have to be smart and you have to prioritize. You know, I'm not discouraging you from buying what vehicle you want to buy or do whatever you want to do, but I'm just telling you that it's better you invest in an appreciating asset than a depreciating asset, all right? All right, so tips for buying a home in the current market. For those interested in buying a home in today's market, there's still a considerable amount of planning to be done to ensure you make an informed decision. One of the first steps to take is to do your research and know your limits. The best way to do this is to get pre-approved for a mortgage. So don't go start searching before you know what your pocket can buy, because you don't want to go start searching and then now when you come back to us, yeah, you can't buy what you went to search for. So come in, get pre-approved. I'm going to encourage those persons, if you're not paying your existing debts properly, start ensuring that you pay your debts properly on time. We have 2 credit bureaus, and I can tell you there's information on you out there on your debts. So, yes, so I'm encouraging you. Sometimes things happen, and if you're not paying on time, it affects your capacity and your eligibility for debt and for borrowing. So I'm encouraging you, if you're not paying so well every month, start paying, you know, every month so that your credit score can work for you, yeah? All right, so get pre-approved is very important. It helps you to determine, you know, how much you can afford to borrow, which basically helps you to decide where to search. You can also consider fixer-upper. It can be cost-effective. You can fix it up how you want to fix it up. And, right, so, therefore, under the Jane Bank Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU that we have with the J.T.A., you can benefit from a variety of specially packaged financial products, which include loans at special rates. So the MOU that we have signed with the J.T.A. allows you to borrow at special interest rates, credit cards, saving products, and financial programs to empower you with knowledge so that you have an opportunity which is like that of other professionals to achieve wealth. At Jane Bank, we understand that everyone has a desire to own a home and have put measures in place to make this smooth and a smooth and easy process. We have a wide variety, about 8. I'll just mention one today. The time is going. Of the mortgage products you can access from us. The adjustable rate mortgage, you can get up to 100% financing. If you have been with Jane Bank for the last 5 years or more, you can get up to 100% financing. If you walk in today, you can get up to 97% financing, right? You can borrow up to 50 billion. I think that says 90, it's actually 100, yeah? The rate just went up a little to 6.85. It was at 6.5, and you can get up to 40 years to repay. And we have an option as well. We do know that you are living longer. We do know that you are working longer. And so even though we go up to age 70, yes, you're living longer. We have a lot of teachers, pensioners. You can use your pension to take out a home. I just gave a teacher, a retired pensioner, something to fix up our house in Portmore. So you can get a loan beyond age 70. We call it the extended payment option because we do know that you're living and you're earning, further than the retirement age, yeah? So that's why I'm saying to you, send that money through the bank account. And of course, with the joint financing program at NHT, you can come to Jane Bank and access your NHT benefits of up to that 6.5 million, and you can get the other portion from Jane as well. We also offer life insurance and general insurance through J&J, our sister companies, to protect you. We also finance your fee, so we have a no or low processing fee option, yeah? And let me just wrap up a little. We also offer home equity. So in the event that you have a mortgage already and you want to perhaps send your child back to school or do some home improvements or do some investments, we can lend you another loan, which is called a home equity against the property. Beyond providing several options to finance mortgage payments, there are also other products and services that Jane Bank offers, which are available to our educators. For example, we have our Go Save account, which is a long-term certificate of deposit that allows you to save in Jamaican dollars. You can start with a minimum of $100,000. Other benefits to the Go Saver account are that you will get guaranteed interest of up to 30% interest tax-free, and your deposits and interest are insured in cases of death, disability, and critical illness. These funds can be used for long-term goals such as education, as down payment, or for other costs associated with buying a house, renovations for your home down the line, among other long-term objectives. You can also benefit from a Jane Bank personal unsecured loan, which you can use to consolidate your debts, pay medical costs, or help offset your home buying expenses. Educators can also benefit from our Jane Bank Visa credit card at special public sector rates. Ladies and gentlemen, Jane Bank wholeheartedly shares in your development and believes in your power to influence the success of our country via your students. Therefore, we are here to support you and to assist in creating the right initiatives which will allow you not to only deliver your best, but to also achieve your best. We want you to live your best life. I wish everyone a stimulating and productive conference. Thank you.
A bigger round of applause for JN. They have all the goodies in the bag out there, so you can see Miss Petal James, Chief Retail Sales, and you can see why she's the Chief Retail Sales. All right. Well, before we hear from our president, we are going to hear from Genoya Edwards, a student at Refuge Primary School right here in Trelawney, and she's here along with her teacher, Desiree Goburn. Is it Go or Co? Go? Goburn. Let her feel welcome, please. Please applaud her.
Good morning. This is Jamaica by Peter Gracie. This is Jamaica. This is my country. A son of this island, a daughter of this land. Fearless of fear, I stand in awe. Only love prevails, secured in God's hands. This is Jamaica, where joy cometh in the morn, surrounded by mystic waters, crashing onto the shores where only heroes are born. Only if you knew Jamaica as well as I do, then you would utter, I love you, Jamaica. God knows I do. This is Jamaica, a simple speck in the universe. Our hearts beat and pulse in every nation, but only second to the kingdom of God. We put Jamaica first. I am Jamaican, regardless of where you may find me. Black, green, and gold is the marrow in my bones. So, if I die away from my island, I pray to God, you'll take me home.
That's so beautiful. And especially like how we are preparing for our 60th anniversary as a nation. Minister, she has to say it again somewhere else. And we thank the teacher. Clap yourself. He has had the time to rest, to relax, and now the moment you have been waiting for is to hear from our president, Mr. Winston R. Smith. Please make our president welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Monteith. Dr. Monteith, chair of this event and Deputy Secretary General of the Jamaica Teachers Association, the Reverend Dermaine Rose, who reminded us of the power of God and how much we can accomplish if we lean on His unchanging hand rather than to focus on our own strength and individual competence. Because the reality is we truly pale in comparison to the Almighty God. To our Honorable Minister of Education, Honorable Favour Williams, who seems to have taken a likeness to J.T.A. activities because she's always around. We acknowledge you, madam, and we thank you for coming and participating with us this morning. Our delightful, exquisite, and effervescent President-elect, the indomitable LaSonia Harrison, who I love to say, future president, you're coming to take over, I can't wait for you to reach. And to our good friend and colleague in the presidential corps, the one who said to me this morning, he sounded the trumpet just for the Gabriel. I can't sing the song, Sir Gabriel, so I won't sing when in the midnight cry. I leave that for Dr. Nicely and others. Our keynote speaker, Dr. Dwayne Dice, and I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when a Jamaican teacher travels abroad, just remember the name. Have his number, because he, along with his beautiful wife, will treat you royally. I have been feted, so I know. We thank you, sir, and we acknowledge your presence here, along with your beautiful daughter. And you see, when I hear all these men talking about their beautiful daughter, you know, it kind of have me feeling a little, you know, because those who know me well know the relationship with my princess. Yes, but unfortunately for me, fortunately for her, she's living her dream of studying law abroad. So, trouble me in a few years' time, I'll have my free lawyer. And if you trouble me now, I write it down for future use. Dr. Nicely, Secretary General of the Jamaica Teachers Association, and Miss Petal James, Chief Retail Sales. We need to talk, and I will say some things when I'm finished here. All of the presenters, Dr. Margaret Chin, the Assistant Secretary General, how could I forget you? Because we sat together and worked on this very theme, and I'm happy to see what we have produced. Our presenters, conference participants, members of the Planning and Program Committee, members of staff of the Jamaica Teachers Association, my esteemed colleagues, children, visitors, exhibitors, I greet you well. I could not proceed without acknowledging my big sister. Yes, I love to tell people that she was responsible for me as a little child. My mother has 11 of us, and the first 6 will be responsible for the other 5. I had a problem with that mathematical equation because somebody was left out. It should have been top 6, bottom 6, but apparently my father didn't want to have any more, so he died. So I'm going to invite my sister Beverly to stand and be acknowledged. Yes. And I'll say to you, colleagues, if I'm a good president, thank her. If I'm a bad one, quarrel with she. She was responsible for me, so she had the responsibility of making sure that I was ready and would walk with me to school before going on to high school. Poor soul. And I wasn't very easy to lead. So you can only imagine. Colleagues, as I stand this morning to greet you and to present remarks as the president, I wrote a very beautiful speech, but then I remember that my daughter was viewing the annual conference online. And I remember that I was standing at this podium, and when I finished, there was a message on my phone, Lord Jesus, Daddy, you and the long talking again. So instead of going for 2.5 hours, which I was intended to do, I have curtailed it to 10 minutes is so long. Very difficult to condense such a long speech in a short time. But the reality is we must do that. Our theme today, colleagues, speaks of innovation in education. The truth is, we have always been innovative. We have started and we have demonstrated as educators to Jamaica and indeed the world that we are the consummate innovator. The pandemic came upon us, and what did the teachers do? We pivot, we reorganize, we restructure, and we continue education. We utilize, Madam Minister, the negotiated benefits. And I'm saying to us, had it been money you gave us instead of tablets from 2017, the education system would have collapsed. And that is how important it is to take care of teachers, because we end up taking care of the society. So we use our tablets, Minister, and I hear you to say that, well, I'm not seeing the innovation being employed in schools, but the Minister, to be honest with you, some of the schools have no plugs. They have no electricity. The rooms are not ergonomically suited for effective use of technology. You can't dim the lights. We can't dim lights and use a projector, Minister, because it's decorated blocks and the sun rays keep coming through. And Minister, I want to congratulate the architects of our schools back then, because somehow they figure that they want to build the school so that sunlight comes in, forgetting that the rain and the sunlight follow the same path. It therefore means that the class will be flooded out. So, Minister, I know, and I keep talking about you, I love to talk to you, because you listen and you act. So I'm happy that you're here, because we're depending on you, Minister, to help us so that we can innovate, retool, restructure, reset, and redevelop education. So I thank you, Minister, for raising that issue. Minister, in my greetings, I had, you see, in condensing, I just couldn't leave out these things, Minister, I know that there are some 1,325 unclaimed, let me not say unclaimed, laptop vouchers that have been out there languishing. The truth is, Minister, those vouchers, the suppliers have no devices to give the teachers. There are limited resources available, because when the teachers go, some of them are asked to give up the voucher, but still no laptop to be delivered. So we need to expand the pool of suppliers of laptops and bring it across the country, because Jamaica is not Kingston and St. Andrew. We have schools in the nook and crannies of Jamaica that depend on these things. So, Minister, I join with you and I pledge to you from my inauguration that J.T.A under my leadership will work collaboratively with the Ministry of Education so that we can advance education, because education is not a J.T.A alone business. Neither is it the business of the Ministry of Education, but it is all of us business. And we must recognize that and act accordingly. My good friend from JN, we thank you for your sponsorship. We really appreciate it. And Minister, we thank you for the contribution from the Ministry of Education too. You see, colleagues, I want to tell you now, it was a secret till now, but I want to bust the secret. We needed support for 15 teachers, and we went to the ministry, we met with them, and I said, Minister, can we get some support? And the ministry sponsored 15 teachers. So 15 of our colleagues sitting here are paid by the ministry to be here, and we must acknowledge that kind of support. I tell you, we have a minister working with us, you know. We just need to fix up the classroom, improve the technology, and most importantly, pay the teachers more so we can get houses from JN. Mrs. James? The teachers are committed to owning houses. You ask us to save so we can have deposit. But unfortunately, Ms. James, the disposable income of the teachers are non-existent. By the time we pay rent, and we choose to pay rent because rent does not require debt service ratio. So therefore, we can pay out of the last penny, and when we finish paying rent, then we are broke for the rest of the month, but we still soldier on to school because education is important. So therefore, I call on you and all your colleagues in the private sector to join on with the J.T.A, lobby the government for a substantial increase so that teachers can own houses. And while you're doing that, simultaneously reduce the interest rate to that of the Jamaican National Housing Trust so that teachers can get house and educate your children. Colleagues, if I continue talking to you, we may not go any further, but I'd love to talk to you, but I have to stop. I just want to say to us, as we go about activating the theme, and I want you to repeat with me, because some person may not even look at the program yet, you know. So I want you to turn to your program, go to the cover, or if you want to look at the cute picture of me on the inside, it doesn't matter. But I want you to go to the cover. Our theme says sustainable innovation in education. Retool. No, don't move so fast because I want it to sink and soak in. Retool. We have demonstrated that we have gotten a hang of that already. And we have retooled, and we have gone to some of the workshops, the seminars, even though when JTC put them at some godforsaken hours when we are burnt out and tired and need rest. We still suffer the fact, screen time, our eyes, most of us wearing glasses now, screen damage in our eyes, Minister. And Minister wearing glasses too, you know, so we have to see with that. Renew. It means that these things taking a toll on us. And I want us to understand that Minister faces the pressure too, especially when J.T.A go up to meet see pressure. But we want to renew, colleagues. Let us not focus on the negative. Let us re-energize, reposition our minds, our thoughts. Renew our minds, and the Bible tells us that we must renew our mind. Let us now advance education. And having pivoted, renew, and reset, we can now move education forward, bridging that digital and social divide, transforming education for economic growth and sustainable development. Colleagues, I want to leave you with a quote. It says that we should become so busy that we have no time to criticize others. Focus on the good that we're doing, because there are a multiplicity of people out there criticizing teachers. We blame teachers for everything, including children who are not coming to school. And we're not blaming the parents who have them at home sitting down and doing nothing. It is time for us to reset this whole business of education. Because, colleagues, our set gen reminded us, unite and serve. We can't unite if we are not seeing things in the same way. Metal and clay can't mix. And when I was in primary school, Mr. Ezekiel Augustus Roy Crawford taught me mathematics. And when he was teaching us to convert, because at that time the metric system was coming in, And he would give us some mathematics, and we say how much hours, how much minutes, and so forth. We could not add them unless we convert them to a common unit. And therefore, we must apply that same principle. If we are going to agree so that we can have education in a sustainable way, we must agree on a common principle. And that is, education is the most important aspect in a human's life. And having agreed on that, provide us with the resources, motivate us with support and encouragement, and minister, help us to get the government to pay us better as we continue to unite and serve. Thank you very much.
You have to continue the applause a little longer. Now you see why he's the president of the J.T.A. All right. And I'm sure the minister was listening intently. All right, colleagues. The next voice you'll hear is from Dr. Margaret Chin, chairperson of the Programs Committee. A lot of work went into the programs, and she'll come and just give an overview. And Dr. Chin is the Assistant Secretary General with responsibility for professional services. Please make her feel welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Charmaine Good-Monteith, our chairman, and Deputy Secretary General, Admin HRD and Finance, to Reverend Jermaine Rose, Haddington New Testament Church of, from Trelawney, he's not here, to Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education and Youth, Mr. Winston Smith, our ever energized J.T.A. President, Mrs. LaSonia Harrison, President-elect, Mr. Jasford Gabriel, our immediate past President, Dr. Dwayne Dice, our keynote speaker, founder and CEO, Education Solutions International, and his wife, Mark Nicely, Secretary General, Mrs. Petal James, Chief Retail Sales at the Jane Bank, all our presenters, our conference participants, members of the media, members of the planning and hardworking program committees, member of staff, and our exhibitors, good afternoon. I think it is afternoon, right? Yes. And I will just briefly talk about the conference overview and the objectives over the next 3 days. The core message of the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is that no one should be left behind. The agenda recognizes the importance of education as a driver of human development, with goal number 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals emphasizing that we must ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. So this conference is planned to explore current and emerging sustainable innovations in education that will empower both educators and learners with new skills, knowledge, and values and attitudes that will lead to a sustainable world. It will also examine a range of pedagogical elements important to sustainable teaching and learning. Within the topic of the conference, thematically the program will address how educators can achieve sustainable development in education by, and today we're going to be looking at retooling, renewing, and resetting the agenda. So you may notice in your program, we have thematically designed the days. So today we're going to look at retooling yourselves. Tomorrow we're going to look at the renewal. And on Thursday, we're going to literally reset education in Jamaica. So the program consists of thought-provoking plenaries, and we're going to be starting one quite soon, followed by concurrent sessions of workshops that are led by practitioners and researchers who will share their knowledge and expertise. We will also have a poster session. You're all familiar with the sports bar, right? That's where the poster session will be. We will start tomorrow, and it will run for the entire day. It starts at 10 o'clock, and we will wrap up at 3 p.m. So finally, the conference invites you to recommit yourselves to the urgent work of building a future in education that is sustainable, that is equitable, and resilient. And in terms of our objective 3 days that we'll be sharing together, please ensure that you learn all you can, network all you can, write down things. If you have questions, we're all here to assist you. Pay attention to all the presenters. On our final day, we'll be having prizes and surprises. So we promise you that the 3 days will be extremely rewarding. And I really, really appreciate you taking your time out to be here with us. Enjoy the hotel too, enjoy the food, enjoy the camaraderie, and most of all, please ensure that you look out for each other. So thank you very much.
Okay, another round of applause for Dr. Chin. And of course, as you've heard, it's going to be a great program. A lot of work went into it. All right. The moment that you have been waiting for, he traveled from far. He had a family. He came from far in. He came from foreign. All right, so he's here, and it's not my duty, so I now invite our Public Relations and Administrative Officer, Communication and PR, Mr. Leon Nash, that voice that you hear on Teacher's Time on Sundays, who will come and introduce our keynote speaker. Mr. Nash, please make him feel welcome.
Yeah, the cable. I'm sorry.
Madam Moderator, our President, Secretary General, guest speaker, President-elect, IPP, administrative members that are here, we thank you so much for being very responsive to what has been taking place this afternoon. My task is to introduce to you the person who will be keeping you on your toes, keeping you well connected for the rest of the afternoon as we move through the session. He is committed to using his skills and education to support the educational community in Jamaica, the US, and around the world. He is born in Kingston, Jamaica. He grew up with his twin brother in the hills of St. Anne on their grandparents' farm. Equipped with strong faith in God and belief in the power of education, our guest speaker earned his Bachelor's of Arts in Education from the Catholic College in Mandeville. He received both an MA in Educational Leadership and MED in Teaching and Learning from St. Mary's University of Minnesota, before earning his Doctorate of Education in Leadership and Management from St. Thomas University. Our guest speaker has now been selected to participate in the renowned Summer Principal Academy program at Columbia University Teachers College, where he will earn a NYS School Building Leadership SBL certification, Master of Education in Public School Building Leadership. Our guest speaker has over 16 years of professional experience teaching in K-6 classrooms and providing instructional training to teachers. At the onset of the pandemic, he conducted and facilitated over 20 virtual training exercises attended by 20,000 teachers and administrators throughout the Jamaican diaspora on topics including online platforms, instructional strategies, early childhood differentiated instruction, online instructional and assessment tools, as well as student and parent engagement. Our colleagues that are here today, please receive the our guest speaker received the J.T.A. Excellence Award for Distinguished Service to Nation Building and Education in 2021, and the UJAA Diaspora Leadership in Education Award, December 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our guest speaker for this session. He is the founder and CEO of Education Solutions International, none other than Dr. Dwayne Dice.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. I've been, we saw everybody online, most people online, for the past 2+ years, and it feels good to see faces in person than virtually. I want to acknowledge, before I continue with the talking, the chairman of the conference, Dr. Charmaine Good-Monteith, and she's Deputy Secretary General, also an admin HRD and Finance. Reverend Dermain Rose, he's fiery, and I wish I could visit his church. Yes, from New Testament Church in Trelawney. And Minister Favor Williams, Education and Youth. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and your words. I see the teachers are holding you accountable. My brother and friend, J.T.A. President Winston Smith, and Mrs. Lasagna Harrison, President-elect. We're looking forward to working with you in the near future. Mr. Jasper Gabriel, he and I worked so closely together when he was president, and we did quite a lot of work with workshops and conferences last year and the year before that. And Mrs. Gabriel, Dr. Mark Nicely, another brother and friend, Secretary General, and his mom and the 2 wonderful daughters over there. They're making friends with Juliana. Mrs. Petels James, Chief Retail Sales at JN Bank, and she stepped out a little. Dr. Margaret Chin, Assistant Secretary General of Professional Services, and our guest from Trinidad, Miss James, I think your name, Miss James? Yes, thank you for coming. Presenters, conference participants, members of the media, members of the planning and the programs committees, members of staff of J.T.A., exhibitors, and also the people who are operating the cameras and everything else that I did not mention. Welcome, and we're hoping that we will have a wonderful conference that you can go back to your schools and implement some strategies. I also have my wife here with me, Mrs. Judy Villeneuve Dice, and I'm pronouncing Villeneuve because a lot of people stretch it. So she's Mrs. Villeneuve Dice. She's the CFO of Education Solutions International, and if I mention it as ESI, it is Education Solutions International, and we put that together since last year and registered it this year. And Juliana, of course, over there. I want to personally thank Dr. Nicely and Mr. Smith and the team, because we're very close to the J.T.A. I'm personally close. I feel like a member of the J.T.A. even though I'm not in Jamaica. We talk regularly, we plan, and we execute our plans for Jamaicans. And I also want to thank you, Dr. Nicely and Mr. Smith, on behalf of Dr. Karen Dunkley, the Northeast Diaspora representative, for your wonderful gifts and for attending the conference a month ago. Thank you so much, and we appreciate it on behalf of her. She said I should say especially thank you in person. So I did. Yeah, I didn't text you. This year, Jamaica celebrates 60th anniversary. It's a milestone anniversary and achievement, and I think we have a lot to celebrate. And I thought back on this conference, which is Sustainable Innovations in Education, and thought that when Jamaica became renowned for reggae music, that was very, very original. It wasn't from around the world. It was very original. And you look back from the diaspora and you look into Jamaica and you realize that you don't really need anything to be original. And if you take something from outside of Jamaica, then it wouldn't be original. And what the minister said is true. When we're going to get into the presentation, talk about innovation is to do something new from even the things that we're using now, the resources. And so I reflect on it, and I'm thinking, Judy and I talk a lot about music and arts, and we love it. We love music and the arts. And we say that a lot of DJs and musicians nowadays, they're regurgitating what we already know. There's nothing original about it. They've been using computer to change their voices and so on. And you find out that when you see them in person, you're expecting the same pitch, but you don't get it. And you're wondering, is this fake? Is this fake? Is not original? So the hard work that we're putting in to being original and being innovative, it is not there anymore. And so we're trying to reset, to get back to basics, and to grow our children in that way, to be innovative and creative. My story, a very short one from the diaspora, I became a part of the diaspora because I was doing work with a few schools in Jamaica. And while I was doing my doctorate, one of my Jamaican professors in Florida, he said, on my research, I did the dissertation on mentoring of youth, at-risk youth in Florida. And he said, as my dissertation chair, that I want you to get in touch with the people in the diaspora who are doing work in Jamaica, and I want you to put this in schools, because it's no use to just promote yourself and benefit people in America, and our people in Jamaica really needs this. So I started putting the mentorship program in schools in St. Elizabeth and talking to principals. And I was visiting Jamaica, talking in graduations. And I got in touch with the people in the diaspora, and it became a thing, the mentorship. But it totally transformed from that. And I became chair of the education task force, and I started doing more things with the diaspora for Jamaica. And I found out that the little that I was doing, it was a lot. It was very much a lot, and I didn't understand what I was doing because I grew up on the principle of helping people. And I created a motto for the education task force at the time. It's called People First. And I wrote articles on People First. And that was our mantra right throughout the time when I was chairing the education task force. The thing that we do, however small it is, it's a major benefit to people, including our children. And you have to be very careful what you do in public. Super careful. And as teachers, we are under the spotlight a lot. We're very much under the spotlight. And people are always watching to say bad things first before they commend us for what we're doing. I'm going to ask Judy to share a story with us. And it's a story about a frog interviewing a fish.
Yes, this is a very, I don't usually sound so seductive, so please excuse me.
Yes, she has a better voice than that.
Okay, so once upon a time, there was a frog, and he was considering living in the sea. And so he decided he wanted to conduct an interview with a fish to see if he could make the right decision. So he went to the fish, and he said, okay, first, I'm going to be taking a few notes. So where do you get your food? Oh, the fish said, oh, that's very easy. The food settles on the ground, and you get the most food after a storm. And then when there's a storm, the food is everywhere, and it's abundant. And then it settles, and you're constantly fed. He says, oh, that sounds good. Never have to worry about food. Okay, next question. So where do you sleep? He said, oh, that's easy too. We have lots of seaweed everywhere. We kind of cuddle in a seaweed somewhere. That's why we can avoid predators. And you can see what's out there, and then you can go out when you need. And food settles in your seaweed. Oh, this sounds great. We have makeshift homes. All right, that's wonderful. How do you protect your family? Do you start families? Absolutely. There's plenty of room in the seaweed for your family. And like I said, food is abundant. Wow. I mean, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with living in the sea. Thank you so much. And the frog turned away, and he wanted to walk away, and then he remembered, oh, but wait. One very important last question. So what's it like living in the water? And the fish turned to him, and he said, what water? So I'd like you girls to share what the moral of that story is.
So, I want one person to tell us, what's the moral of that story? What's the moral of this story? Thank you, Minister. The environment is so normal for the fish. He's not aware that he's living in water. What water? He's not aware. This is what we feel when we look back from America or from across the ocean. This is exactly what we feel. You have resources here in Jamaica. You have each other. You have everything you need. But we're so unaware of our resources because we are a little bit dependent on somebody to tell us what to do so much that we are forgetful of what we have. And I'm very privileged to grow up in Jamaica to know exactly what those are, because those are the things that I survived on when I'm not here. It is not American things. It is not. Many times I have to shield off American way of life because it's consumer driven. It's very consumer driven. And it is focusing on individual mindset. It is me, me, me. Every single person leaves Jamaica, you tend to forget about your family because you work yourselves so much that you forget to be aware of where you come from, what is it that is important. So the question that Dr. Nicely asked is, what is my role and what am I going to do with all of this? It's very pertinent to you sitting here on a retreat, basically, to retreat and look at your resources, what you have, and ask yourself, what am I going to do about what I have here? Not what you're going to not do with what you don't have, because what you don't have, you cannot use it. So we have enough, and I'm going to walk us through many things that we might take for granted. This first one, I'm going to ask Mrs. Gabriel to read from Carter Goodwin Wilson, and he is the actual inventor of Black History Month. He wrote the book, The Miseducation of the Negro, and that was in 1933. He's a black man in American, and he wrote that in 1933. He probably got the idea from Marcus Garvey, because at the time, Marcus Garvey was right there, and they were ready to arrest him in Georgia. He was right there. So I'm going to ask you to read, and you guys can read too silently while Mrs. Gabriel read out loud. Go ahead, Mrs. Gabriel.
So,
yeah, it's working.
it's on.
It's on.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Carter Godwin Wilson, inventor of Black History Month. His book, Miseducation of the Negro, 1933. The mere imparting of information is not education. The effort must result in making a man think and do for himself.
Thank you very much. And it goes on, and I would suggest you get a copy of it. It's probably really, really cheap because he actually self-published it. Nobody wanted to publish it. And it talks about all of us. It was powerful, very powerful writing. It talks about educating our children, not to set ourselves in the type of conveyor belt that is produced by society, but getting us to think. If we are supposed to think, then we will be aware of the water that we're in, that we're surrounded by enough natural resources and each other to pull ourselves out of this bondage, this thing that Marcus Garvey talked about, to free our minds of mental slavery. And it's the modern mental slavery. Okay. Yeah, okay, so it's $4.99. $4.99 US. Thank you very much. Yes, so it's to get us to think. So every single time that a student comes in front of you and you're teaching that student, stop thinking about math and science and reading, but think, how do I get the student to fish? And not so that I won't give him a fish every single day. He's supposed to fend for himself. And every single time they come to you and they stand in front of you, you're thinking about, this is another graduate from a university already. This is another student who is going to invent something. This is the student who I need to help, even when they're troubling. They torment your best behavior and yourself that you prepared so well in the mirror to come and stand and teach in front of them. And they're dismantling your own values. You're saying, what can I do to help this student? Because they're creative and they're innovative, but they need guidance. They need a lot of guidance. So you teach them how to think and give them scenarios. One of the things we looked at is simulation. Simulation in school. Simulating a real-world problem. So like the STEM fair. We had an e-learning and STEM summit 2 years ago with the ministry as a partner and the J.T.A. And we talk about implementing strategies in schools so that students will use technology for the right reasons. And that's where it's coming from, to getting them to take ownership of their own learning and do about these technology devices instead of playing video games on them all the time. At present, we want to know how you're doing. How are you doing? Because we have been through a pandemic, and we restart school, and we reinvent some of the areas of our school. So the thinking and the activities that we put into the opportunities that we got during the pandemic is to collaborate with the Ministry of Education. I'm talking from the diaspora. When we look at it and we're thinking, oh, we really need to help as many people as possible, we started looking at filling the gaps with education and technology training for teachers, partnering with the J.T.A. and collaborating with the Ministry of Education to put on training. One of the most serious one that we started doing 2 of the 3 parts, and we still haven't finished the third part, and it's school improvement. School improvement, we did the first phase already and the second one, and we are supposed to go about doing the third phase. And we're gonna get that done by June of this year. So stay tuned for that. But we have been through the pandemic. We have implemented strategies to teach online. We have collaborated more than any other time in history in Jamaica and around the world too. You're not doing badly, okay? Just so you know, we're living in New York. We're living in New York. Judy is Director of Policy and Engagement at New York City Department of Ed. And she will tell you that the department they really struggled through the pandemic. Even after the pandemic, they were struggling. And when we were talking to teachers from here, talking about devices and who has to be teaching from their phone, and they have 1 or 2 laptops that they're using and they're sharing and so on. New York City was worse than that. They weren't even in contact with many, hundreds of thousands of students. Yeah. And so you were doing way better than them. So you cannot complain, or maybe I shouldn't say you cannot complain. Somebody needs to tell you to calm down a little bit and think about the circumstances that you are in better than other people who are developed nations. Yeah, you have to be aware of the water. Be aware of the water. I saw this principal, I think his name is Mr. King, riding around on his bike, dropping off, in Westmoreland, dropping off papers at drop points. Many teachers were even using blackboards, painting streets, corners to teach students. They weren't doing that in America. They weren't. And many of the students, you don't really know this, but we are there, we live it. Many of those students who were online, they weren't learning. They were playing video games. They weren't learning. So you have to understand where you are and use what you have. Use what you have. Okay? So we reinvent the idea of education that is not just a marker and a chalkboard, but it is the mind. To educate your mind is to free yourself from the bondage that we're in, and don't limit yourself to your present situation. Notice that I said situation. Because a situation that you're passing through, so you have to be innovative and you have to be flexible. One of the things that our schools need to teach our students is to be flexible, is to see things as adaptive leaders, that you're changing with the times. You're not stuck and you're not solid like concrete, that you cannot bend. So you need to change with the resources, and you need to change with the time. Yeah, similar to what Dr. Nicely's mom told him. These are the problems, now go and solve them. You know, you're in water, go and solve the problems. Yes, so the partnership with the diaspora, we enjoyed the partnership. And then here comes the evaluation from the Ministry of Education, evaluating the present condition of the education system through the reform in 2021. And I know it tore up many people. You get all antsy and loud about the report. And we read the report. We actually, I'm waiting to have a discussion on my talk show. It's called EduTalk, about this report and what it says. Now, remember this. These shortcomings that were highlighted in the report, they were there long before the pandemic. The pandemic is an evaluation of that. It is to say to us, stop doing what you're doing and do something else. That's what it is saying. And part of it, too, is to stop doing it that way. Continue doing this thing, but beef up on it. Build up on it. Collaborate more. Share more resources that you have. And build on what you have. Okay? So some of it is not detrimental, because it's telling us what was lacking long time ago. So the pandemic is like, I'll give you a scenario. It is like an exam that you're preparing for. And then you take the exam and you didn't prepare sufficiently. And you score low on the exam. And you say to yourself, oh man, I should have studied harder. I should have prepared. You know, if I did prepare more, then my scores would be higher on this. So that's what the pandemic is. It's an examination of us. And then we're going to pick up the pieces and we're going to work on the shortcomings. Okay? We cannot blame people. We cannot. Because the blame game is not going to solve problems. It's not. We need to find solutions. We seriously need to find solutions. Dr. Nicely talked about it in his message in the magazine. He said we need a more sufficient and effective system. And you can go ahead and read the rest of it. So what exactly is innovation? And Minister Williams took a lot out of this part of my talk with you. And I want to even, she didn't put it on screen, so mine is on screen for you to reflect on. So that's a plus. Successful exploitation of new ideas. When you think of innovation, successful exploitation of new ideas. The ideas. So as you read through that, what's the difference between creativity and innovation? What's the difference? Anybody? I need one person. What's the difference between creativity and innovation? One is good. So one is hidden, and one is expression of that hidden idea. So creativity is the idea that we have. And if you don't get that idea out practically to solve a problem, you're not innovating. So many of us are very creative. And if you talk with the gossips that teachers have around, oh, I don't like that principle, and I have this, I could implement it in the classroom, but me not do it. Because, no. You know, that is just ideas. You have wonderful ideas, and the students will never benefit from those ideas because you're not being innovative. You have, they refer to it as bad mind, and the jealousy and the backbiting mentality that you will never implement your ideas. You'll never be innovative. So the poor children who are supposed to be reading, who are supposed to be doing math, they're not doing those things because you're not implementing the ideas that you have. And so from year after year, you stay and you sabotage the system. You have the reading books, you have something. You could even look up resources on your phones and engage these students, but you're not going to do it because the ministry doesn't give you these allowances and so on. So you're not going to do it, or the J.T.A. is not quick with the responses with the technology devices, so you're not going to implement ideas with your phones. You know, use what you have. And the most important thing is that the students are the objective of education. Not principal, not the ministry, not teachers. The students. We are going to teach because of the students. We're going to teach them. So with the report that came out that talked about the reading level and the numeracy level. Literacy and numeracy level, they're super high. They're super high in the negatives. We really need to. It says that many of them are coming from school not being able to read, secondary and primary schools. They're not being able to read on level, and they're not being able to do math on that level, secondary level, primary level. So what are we going to do? So one of the things we looked at in our company is to see if we can partner, do deeper partnership to put together reading programs for Jamaica, reading programs and numeracy programs, and see if we can generate some PDs around those. Because the short term and the long term is to get these kids to read and to do math. I am thinking that if we put the standards for reading, comprehension and language arts standards, if we put those standards, pair them with math, and get the students to read more word problem in math and discuss them, I think they can increase their reading level as well. Discuss it. We need cross-curricular activities, math and reading, and we need to implement those PLCs, professional development learning communities, in schools that are discussing these standards, again, across reading and math. Do some reading in math. Do some math vocabulary in reading. Yeah, do them in science. Do them in social studies. So we need to strategically plan more effectively in when you have those PLC sessions per week, the lesson planning. While deep inequalities have pervaded every aspect of education since schools were closed in March 2020, remarkable areas of innovation and change have also occurred. We have seen more rapid progress in 2020 in bridging the digital divide than we have seen in the last 10 or 20 years. We have also seen more uptake of technology-driven innovations in teaching, more outreach directly to families, and more collaboration time for teachers than were thought possible even a few months before the pandemic shut down in-person learning. The initial changes were made to meet immediate needs, but a broader question should guide our efforts throughout this year and beyond. How can we redesign schools to be student-centered in ways that support the whole child, both socially, cognitively, morally, and identity. Focus on deeper learning that meets the demands of today's society. Culturally and linguistically connected and sustaining. Grounded in collaboration among students, staff, families, and communities, and equitable in the opportunities provided and outcomes achieved. And that's what we need when we look at innovation. Innovation is a very disciplined undertaking. It's called for long-term planning. And these are the areas that I put together to talk to us about how do we, education, innovate? How do we do that? Practically. Innovation requires a risk analysis. So you need to go back to your schools and start talking about needs assessment. The needs assessment, talk to everybody about it. The security guard, custodial workers, students, we need to involve them. It involves management of scope of innovation, prioritizing areas of need, network ideas. So I have an idea, I bounce it off Dr. Nicely and Dr. Charmaine Gooden, bounce it off them. They have something that they tell me about the idea, and then I would say, okay, can we implement this in the school? Implement those ideas to become innovative. Network with people. Talk to people right across Jamaica. You have your smart devices. Talk to them, meet on Zoom, share ideas across Jamaica and the world. We have a network in our system with teachers even right across the world, from Dubai to Africa to Asia, and of course America. And we talk to them all the time. So we need that. We need careful planning when it comes on to innovation in schools. And for innovative mindset, I'm going to talk a little bit about this because I think all of us are talking about this innovation as if it's a strategy that we implement. And honestly, it's not. It's a mindset. To innovate is to change your way of life and your thinking. It is a mindset. It is to look deep in yourself and ask yourself, what am I going to look like after 5 years? That is what I did when I was going to school. Every single time I enroll in a school, and right now I'm in I'm doing a course in MIT and Columbia. I love learning. I really love learning. And that caused me to network with people in Africa and in Asia. Because you get up and you start saying, oh, I want to do that course. That looks good. And it's in a prestigious university, so I do it. I enrolled in it. And then I got to network with people. And I found out that, oh, this person wants something from education. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do it. I can do that. I can't travel over there now because of my other work doing, but I can meet you on Zoom. And we meet on Zoom and we talk. The same thing can happen when you network with us. Network with your people from St. Thomas to the other part of Jamaica, Negril. Yeah, so you're constantly networking and talking to people. Life is about talking. It's about engaging people. Not just in your school, but in your school, of course, know people around the block. My school now in Manhattan, I walk right up and down the 14th floors. I walk up and somebody will say, how do you know that person? I meet them on the elevator, I meet them in the lobby, and they say, how do you know that person? And I said, I met them so-and-so. I met this one. And that person has been at the school for 20 years, and they don't know those people. 20 years. So you have to know the people you're working with and know what you can say to other people and what you can't say to them. Because it will tick them off. And you might not like that side of them, so you just don't say it. And you create enemies by not talking sometimes, instead of just strike up a conversation. So the school leader, this is very important. The school leader must learn to support and facilitate innovation in the school. How do you do that? Or, let's start with the negative first, which is not good. How do you not do that? You cannot be up here so high that you don't talk to your teachers. And you cannot be up here so high that you don't talk to the students. And you cannot be up here so high as a leader, a school leader, that you're not talking to your custodial workers and the security guard at the door. You cannot. These people know the school better than you. How in the heavens are you not going to talk to these people when they know which key fit with whatever door? And you're talking about leadership, not management. How are you using your influence to influence the growth in the school? Because if you're a school leader, you're supposed to grow. You're supposed to grow leadership. So if you're not growing leadership, it's seriously you need to pack up and tell Mr. Smith or Minister Williams or Dr. Nicely, because he's so nice. Tell him that I don't feel like leading here. I feel like I need to go back somewhere else because I don't fit in here. If you're not growing the school, growing leaders, talking to your teachers, say we need to put a garden over there. Because Jamaica is so fertile that if you drop a seed carelessly behind you, it grows. You have to, every school here should have a garden. Every single school. Your cafeteria should not be out of food or condiments. You should go to the garden and pick it and give the students organic food. Amen. Yeah. Juice your oranges and mangoes and feed the kids. Yeah. There's no way you should be worrying about where am I going to get this. You know, when I was working, one of my last schools I work here in Jamaica before I migrated is Garlogi Primary and Junior High, all the way on top of the mountain in Clarendon. And those kids would kill me with food. They always carry, because I ended up at their houses. In the afternoons, I walk to these people's houses. And I say, I'm going to come and eat food with you. I'm coming over there to check on you. I'm going to read a book on the rock outside your house. And we sat there until 6, 7 o'clock at night. And read and talk about math, talk about cricket and stuff. And then tomorrow I said, please do not carry any more food for me because my fridge is full. Yeah, they have these little farms and you motivate them on their work on Saturdays and they clean up and so on. So we need to care for our teachers as school leaders. We really need to, and just leave them alone. Don't micromanage them. Do not micromanage them. You will never get innovation if you micromanage people because you're stifling their ideas. You're really stifling them. Talk to them about what you're doing. I heard Dr. Nicely said, you know, I give you, just do it, you know. You have the autonomy. Just do it. That's how you should operate with people because they are people, just like all of us, okay? And the teachers, you need to implement practices for innovation. Implement it. Focus on the child. Always focus on the child. And these are some of the areas. When I talk about teacher-led innovation, strong moral purpose, focus on students because they're the focus, undertaken by, on behalf of the profession. These innovative practices, you need to implement them on behalf of the teaching profession, oriented towards learning, builds on the developed professional knowledge, and simulations, as we talked about earlier on, through instructional activities. You need to provide real-world problems for these students to work through in the setting of the school. So they don't go there and feel surprised. They actually know these things because they're doing it from school. And the other part that I want to talk about too is, that I've experienced here, is to teach English as reading in English as a second language. Because Patois is the first language. And if you teach it just like that, as a second language, then you will see the gaps that the students have in writing. They're not writing standard English. And I've seen teachers who are abroad, they are Jamaicans, and we're still having the problem. I had that problem too when I was growing up here. I had the problem because Patois was my original language, my first language. So you have to teach them as if they're learning a new language. And when you teach them that, teach them to write it, all of the grammar and so on in English, just like a second language. And they will learn, they will develop themselves even more. Okay? For the student-led innovation, this I found really interesting. Celie Brown in 2004 said this: today's digital kids think of information and communications technology, the ICT, as something akin to oxygen. They expect it. It's what they breathe and it's how they live. They use ICT to meet, to play, to date, and to learn. It's an integral part of their social life. It's how they acknowledge each other and form their personal identities. So my charge to you is ask the students to use their phones for learning. Do not try to take it from them because they're digital natives. And if you try to take the phone from them, it's like tearing their heart out. They're digital natives. So you have to teach them. I know it's stressful and it's about, but you have to teach them how to use the phone for education and share information. If you don't, you're going to have problems. And I've seen it both ways. Right now in our schools in New York, we're actually integrating technology. So it's not just phones, but your computers. We're giving them work on the computer to do as well as on paper. And we're meeting them on Zoom as well as in person. So you have to teach them how to use that because, again, they're digital natives. They're never going to stop using them. And they're going to feel as if they hate you and love their device, and they're going to think that, oh, you don't want anything good from me because this is what I grew up in. I live in it, and you don't want me to use what I have. Culture, we're winding down. School culture and measuring innovation. And one of the things that we looked at in science, especially STEM fair, we looked at when you implement an idea, you have to be able to measure it, to evaluate it from time to time. And as you go through your year and you implement innovative practices, you're going to measure it. So systems thinking is having your top-down, bottom-up talk from your teachers and your students. So it's called looping, where you run ideas from principal to teachers, and you're constantly looping ideas. And then double looping is where you constantly talking. You talk to teachers as principals, and the teachers talk back to you about strategies and implementation plans that they have for these practices. So the school is like an ecosystem when you have these systems in place. It's systems thinking. The school is constantly thinking and constantly growing. And the meetings are very purposeful because you talk about ideas and you talk about implementation of those ideas. So it's double looping and looping of ideas from teachers and students and even the custodial staff. They're supposed to come in some of those meetings and sit and talk with you for this system to work as an ecosystem. And when you measure the innovation, when you implement ideas, you have to measure it. You have to measure it at least every 3 months or every 6 months. So let's say you implement a reading plan, a reading strategy, because the students are not doing so well at reading, and you implement that. You're implementing it to improve the quality of reading. But you have to put strategies in place to find out if it's working after 3 months or 6 months. If it's not working the way that you want it to work, you need to follow those evaluation techniques and tweak it or modify it. Modify the program and put it back out there again in the school and try again and again until we get it right. Okay? Instructional practices, you need to measure innovation in. Learning resources, and one big one is parent and community engagement. We need to engage the community more. Have the parents, as tough as some of them are, have them come in for at least 1 hour per week to sit in a reading class and read a book to their students. They need to get involved. And if you haven't had a PTA program at your school, you need to put that in place. And the loudest parents, the ones who you claim to be vicious and vile, get those people to be involved. Get them to lead the PTA and to throw work on them. What I learned from one of my mentors back in the days, when I saw him, he was in one of our programs, and I said to him, why do you give that loud person the leadership role to implement things and to get ideas and so on? And he said, you see, people who talk a whole lot, give them work to do. and they will stop talking. Yeah. Give them a lot of work to do. And the loudest person in the community, let them be the PRO for the PTA. Nothing you have will be left unturned. Every message you have to tell that community, it will be out there. And every fundraising you have in the school will work because you have a loudspeaker on your team. Seriously. So measure the implementation plan of these innovative practices and look at how you're going to implement them. Because on the spectrum of things, there are two practices in innovation. Two practices. One of them is very radical, where if the system is not working, you dismantle it, throw it away, and start a real fresh. Start anew. Just like having a school that is not doing so well, revamp it, the entire thing, fire everybody, and get a new transformational leader in, and the school start doing superbly well. Superbly well. Yeah. You need to get rid of people who are not doing well. It's very true. It's hard to say, but you really need to, because those people are the ones holding down the system of education. It's not personal. It is not personal. We are about the business of educating our students, and we're looking at them as tomorrow leaders and today inspirations. So we have to put measures in place to make sure that they are learning and they're growing, they're thinking. They're thinking. So a lot of the strategies that you can put in place for evaluating the system includes your quantitative data and your qualitative data, your surveys that you're implementing among students, teachers, the community. You're picking up surveys. So one of the questions could be, how are we doing after 3 months of school this year? How are we doing? Let's talk to our parents. Let's talk to the business leaders in here. What do you hear on the street? Word on the street says that so-and-so primary school is doing well. It's uppity, you know? And the students love it. The students love Miss Brown or Mr. Brown. What is Mr. Brown or Miss Brown doing? You know, talk to them about the strategies that you can spread the love. You know, talk to the community. Spread the love. And the other one, so that's radical, where you change everything. The other one is incremental, and this normally is very humane, where if something is not working, the whole system, you pick one thing that you need to change gradually, and over time, you will have the whole system over 5 years, 3 to 5 years. If you're purposeful about it, you have the entire system changed, but it's gradual step-by-step changes. It's incremental innovation. And this is the one I think we should start doing now. We should start implementing ideas that will change the lives of students, okay? Change the lives of parents. And my final part, by the way, if you stay in the middle, you're maintaining the status quo. And you don't want that. People will not remember you. You know, I heard the little girl said that Jamaica is where heroes are born. You will not be remembered if you stay in the middle. You will not be a hero. You really need to be incremental, doing what you do, but better. Or if you want to do radical change, you know, I'm not the one. What I want you to do is, I'm going to go over this a little bit, and then I'm going to tell you something, because Judy is going to come up. She's going to spend 10 minutes with you. We're launching some scholarships and sponsorship, some grants. And she's going to talk to you about that from ESI. But while I'm talking, if you can see the bit.ly link down there, I don't know if it's too tiny. You're going to go in there and you're going to fill out the survey. I'm going to keep it up as long as possible. Purposeful action, and this is the last slide we have. Purposeful action, you need to do something. We really need to do something with our systems. So you heard about the pandemic and recovering from the pandemic. We talk about innovation. We talk about how to education innovate. We give you strategies that you can implement at least one. And then we talk about the mindset that is not just a practice. It is a mindset. It's deep in your head that you need to start thinking, what am I going to look like, and work towards that looking like after 5 years, 3 years. And we talk about school culture and measuring innovation. And then we talk about innovative practices, which is radical and incremental. And this time is a charge where we are asking you to be purposeful in your action. John Dewey, one of my favorite educational philosophers, he said this: purposeful action is thus the goal of all that is truly educative. And it is the means by which the goal is reached and its content remade. So we need to, once we get information, we turn that information into action. Okay? And as she comes, I'm going to share a story with you. It's another fish story. There's this teacher, one day he came in his classroom, and he got a fish as a pet, a class pet. Put a fish in a tank in the classroom. And he told the class, he said, this fish, I want us to nurture it. I want it to be our class pet. The students were very happy. The student started feeding the fish every day. Renamed the fish. They named the fish Confucius. And they start to take care of the fish. But one morning, and the only rule is that they should not touch the fish. There's no finger on the fish. And so one morning, the teacher came in, took the fish out of the tank, and put it on the ground. And the fish started flapping around, dying. And the students came in and they're appalled. They're like, what's going on here? Why did he do that? He's so cruel. And the two girls walked up, and after the pain that they feel in their heart for the fish, they took up the fish really quickly and just throw it back in the tank. And the teacher said to them, you go to the office, you're done, you're suspended for the day. Because I told you, you should not touch the fish. There's no hand on the fish. And they took up their bags and they walked to the office. And afterwards, the teacher went to the hallway and class is dismissed. And he saw the girls walking out with their parents, leaving because they're suspended. And their heads were down. And he said, lift your chin up, hold your head high, because doing the right thing sometimes causes consequences, but you did the right thing. So what are we going to do every single day? Are we going to look at the fish and just observe, or are we going to put the fish back in the tank? What are we going to do? Consequences. So sometimes we look out and we say we can't do anything because our hands are tied, red tape and so on. Do the right thing, even if it costs us something. Do the right thing. I'm going to invite Judy Villeneuve-Dice to come up here and take about 5 to 10 minutes. And she's the CFO of Education Solutions International, our company that we created. And we didn't know that it was going to cause us a lot of work. But since we launched it a couple months ago, we got very busy. But we want to do a lot for Jamaica incrementally. So we're starting now.
Well, thank you and good afternoon, everyone. This is all very exciting, and I want to just say very quickly that radical innovation that he mentioned, that's what they did in New York City. We have a new chancellor. It would be the equivalent of the Minister of Education. And since January, he's fired over 300 administrators. He said that their work wasn't close enough to the classroom and benefiting students and families in the way that he thought was efficient. So it sounds like a crazy suggestion, but it actually does happen. And so that's not the nicest way to go. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of friends in that process, looking for work, found work eventually. But it is a real thing if you're interested in education. So I just want to say, first of all, I'm a Jamaican American, and I credit who I am today as a result of the education system in Jamaica. While I was born in the U.S. I was born in the U.S. to two Jamaicans attending university there. And like most of you know, when Jamaicans go to the United States and study at university, they're exceptional. And they're exceptional in ways that resonates with the children that they produce, and we pass that on to our children. So when you wonder about the diaspora and you think to yourself, why are these people so interested in us? Because for us, we are united and we come here to serve. That's our purpose, because we don't forget where we come from. So I can also credit you for bringing our relationship together. It's during the pandemic and all the work he was doing for Jamaica that we fell in love. So, and what we have in common is a commitment to ensuring that all of the success that your children have continues to happen, because they're like these golden seeds that are being fostered here and grown so that they can be spread around the world and have the kind of impact that us as Jamaicans have had. I'm very proud to say my dad and my mom grew up very poor here, but now my mom is an immigration lawyer and my dad is a dentist as a result of the education that they received in this country. So together, Dwayne and I want to make sure that we are passing back those opportunities to all of you and to the students that are here. So he was overwhelmed with this motivation to go beyond the pandemic. It wasn't just enough to teach you guys online, because as he said, you're evolving. So he's been brainstorming, and we talk constantly, trust me, about what else can be done so that we can continue to provide the level of service that you need. So obviously we're not alone. The diaspora is made up of a lot of passionate people that are equally committed. So Education Solutions International in particular is a nonprofit. So what does that mean? It means it gives us the opportunity to raise money so that we can identify where the challenges are and the issues are, and we can give back, and those people who donate to us, they can write it off on their taxes. We also share our passion, and we gather through our networks other educators throughout the United States and abroad that are interested in coming back and doing educational programs with you guys and sharing that perspective of what education is like outside of Jamaica so that it can help you to grow. Food for thought, things that you can use to innovate. So I'm very, very honored to be able to share with you today that we are launching our very first grant in light of what was spoken about today. It's called the Innovation Education Grant. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be relying on principals to recommend teachers who have provided, and that's by completing an application that you will only receive if you fill out that survey. So please make a point before the end of this conference to fill out this survey, because people who have filled out the survey will receive the application for the grant. And the grant will be given in the amount of $150 per teacher in each of the 14 parishes who submits an innovative classroom practice that is sufficient, and I guess you could say successful, to be awarded the grant. So principals will make that recommendation, and the application requires a 250-word explanation of that innovative practice and a 1-minute video. So hopefully you know how, but if you don't, please take the opportunity to learn to upload your video on YouTube, make that available to us, and we are taking volunteers independent of Jamaica, but our diaspora members and other teachers working in the US, they're going to be reviewing these applications with us, and then the application closes on June 19th, 2022, and then we will be working with Dr. Nicely as to when we are going to be awarding those scholarships. We're going to be coming back. We don't know whether or not it's going to be in August or before the end of the summer, but we're going to be working with our partners to identify when that will be appropriate. So please make sure that you're completing this, because that is going to be the way that we can distribute. And it's not limited to those of you that are here, of course. Please share that bit.ly address address to all of your other teachers as well and principals so that they can participate. This is the first year we're going to be doing it, but this will be an annual practice. The next opportunity that we're going to be focusing on in order to continue to encourage the learning that's taking place in English and math, we are going to be providing the resources to pay for CXC classes for students that are identified, again, by the principal. It will be one student in each parish at a minimum. But we're still fundraising, so it can go beyond that. But that, at a minimum, one student who is performing very high, but is also in high financial need, is who we're looking for. So that's the information that we'll need to get from you. Please, you're going to submit those names. Again, we will share the application that you need to fill out as long as we've gotten your information. So thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to be here and to be able to share with you, and I look forward to reviewing your applications and to being able to support you in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so those are two different, one is a grant and the other one is a scholarship for students, secondary students who are having challenges paying for CXC subjects. And those two subjects are English and math, because we look at the report and we realize that if some of those students who are doing very well and they get support, financial support to pay for CXC, English and math, then maybe they could focus on some other things with their money. So we're going to help pay for those from them. Yes? Oh, they do? So, okay. So we'll talk to the ministry then, yes, to see if we can push it on. But Phil, if you cannot see that, we're going to put it on our website. Is educationsolutionsinternational.org. That's educationsolutionsinternational.org. And once you go on there, you can also subscribe, because we have newsletter. We also have events that we publish on there to our members and subscribers. That's educationsolutionsinternational.org. And once you go on the front page, you'll see us, and you can become a part of the system that is here. And we work very closely with the J.T.A. and Dr. Nicely. We have a really good family bond, and we're nurturing it. It feels like a newfound family for the past couple of years, and we want to give as much as possible to students and teachers. Okay? All right. Thank you so much, and I'm privileged to be here, and I look forward to more of these, especially coming and visiting schools. We want to come and visit schools instead of meeting you in a fancy place like this. We want to go. Of course, the schools are fancy too, but we want to see the students. Yes, we want to see the students. See, yes. All right. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Can I get a wow? I think it was wow. And to have one of our own. And of course, I have to put in a little bias, because we all have our bias. The St. Anne connection. Clap him again. That was awesome, Doc. To just hear and to see and to hear you sharing from the heart. School is an ecosystem, no joke about that. Do the right thing. Innovation is key. Be purposeful. We should be adaptive leaders. Purposeful, make our actions purposeful or intentional. Manage and implement change. Change with the times, or else you'll be left behind. Change your mindset. Whatever we always say in HR, whatever gets measured gets done. So measure your innovations. Parent and community engagement, quite critical. And I remember doing a course at Nova, and I've always said that's a course that I would love to teach. We called it Family School Collaboration, very important. That was great. Another round of applause for... We have some presentations that we'll do, but before we do that, we are really racing against time. We have 12 minutes to end this session. We are going to give 5 minutes to e-learning to just come and say a few words. The CEO is here, Mr. Andrew Lee. Please make him welcome. And then after which we will have some presentation to our keynote speaker and to others. And I see the one and only Dr. Gordon, from CEO of J.T.A and all our other colleagues from the Teaching Council. Please make them feel Dr. Winsome Gordon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Chairman Mrs. Monteith. Let me quickly acknowledge the rest of the head table. I know I stand between you and lunch, and that's not a good place to be. So I'll be very, very brief. Minister Williams, thanks for being here. Mr. Smith, President of the J.T.A, good to be with you. Dr. Nicely. Dr. Nicely serves on our board at e-learning. Always good to be with Dr. Nicely. Dr. Gabriel, sorry, Mr. Gabriel, you see, in the J.T.A, it's always a person with a PhD. So I'm promoting Mr. Gabriel. Dr. Dice, very excellent presentation this afternoon. Mrs. Petal James, CEO from, the Chief Retail Sales person from Jane. Dr. Margaret Chin, presenters, conference participants, members of the media, members of the planning committee, members of staff of the J.T.A, exhibitors, good afternoon. I'm here this afternoon to just give us a brief update as to what we're doing at e-learning and how that works in conjunction with the whole idea of innovation and infusing technology in schools. Next slide, please. So just a little about e-learning. E-learning was formed in 2005 as a limited liability company. If it were a person, e-learning, okay. E-learning, that person would be now doing their CAPE 1 or CAPE 2. Our capital projects are funded primarily by the Universal Service Fund and, of course, the Ministry of Education. And I want to really thank Minister Williams for the effort that she's been making to fund technology in schools. Now we have an independent board of directors. Dr. Nicely, I mentioned, is a member of our board. But beyond that, Dr. Nicely also serves on our projects committee. So all that we do that impact education, Dr. Nicely has a hand in it. He also serves on our procurement committee as our chair of that committee. So I want to thank Dr. Nicely for all the work that he has been helping us to get done at e-learning. Our recurrent expenditure, of course, funded through the Consolidated Fund, and our core competencies really are in the areas of project management, technology innovation, support services, and implementing technology across the education sector. Now, our mandate, I indicated, is to promote the infusion of technology in our education system. And of course, we act as the implementation arm of the Ministry of Science, Energy, and Technology. Our vision really is to transform national learning outcomes through the infusion of ICT. And of course, we want to facilitate e-access to all for the learning purpose. Our projects, which is what I really want to update us on this afternoon. Historically, we have done quite a bit. You're aware of the labs that we have done across all the schools, or many schools in Jamaica. But I want to fast forward to now, or the last 2 years now. Mr. Smith spoke about the tablets that you have received as teachers. We facilitated the procurement and distribution of those devices. So in all, we have facilitated the procurement and distribution of just around 26,000 tablets to teachers. Last year, we procured 15,000 laptops to aid in the education system, primarily as persons were, due to the pandemic, were not able to do face-to-face. Of those 15,000, so far, over 12,000 devices have been distributed. But I want to hasten to say that some devices still remain in the schools, and that we're asking our principals, our teachers, to ensure that those get out to our students. So they're of no value having them in locked up. The Own Your Own Device program, which you're very well aware of, and in fact that has impacted you. This year, 8,900 teachers are slated to benefit from that program, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Now, tablets for part students, we have procured 25,000, we have distributed 11,500, and we're in the process of distributing the remaining 13,500 devices. But last year, we also introduced or distributed 40,000 tablets to part students, and that was primarily focused at the students who are in the grades 4 to 6, those persons who are preparing for their PEP exams. So a little bit more about that in terms of the 40,000. What we're asking our principals to do is to ensure that the paperwork that we need to get to facilitate proper auditing and accountability is to get those paperwork back to us. So we're asking you to help us in that regard. Now, the laptops for part students, grades 10 to 13, this was, again, focused on the upper school, so students would have access to devices that would facilitate their learning experience or research for exam purposes. Again, we have distributed 12,200, and we have some 2,800 sitting in storage across the island that need to get to the students. So please help us in that regard. Now, in the first phase of the Own Your Own Device program, this was really geared towards getting the vendors across Jamaica to participate in this initiative. It's valued at $720 million. Each applicant receiving $20,000 towards the procurement of a device. So far, almost 30,000, 29,600 vouchers have been redeemed, and we have issued just under 34,000. So right now, in the hands of students all across Jamaica, are 4,300 vouchers to be redeemed. So we have been in touch, or we have been contacting the schools and encouraging our teachers to get the students to go out and to get the devices. Now, tablets are available. We know that we had a global issue in terms of device availability, but certainly the tablets that will meet the specifications that we have set out are available, and we're encouraging our teachers to get our students to go out and to get those devices. Now, there's a program called the SERVE program. It's a program aimed at facilitating those needy students not on path that would have been identified by their members of parliament. 6,300 such students will benefit from the program. So far, we have issued 2,600 vouchers, and just over 1,000 have redeemed. So again, we're encouraging our teachers to ask our students, just to remind them to go out and to redeem the vouchers. Our teachers specifically, Minister, you did not mention this, but I know that there's a program over the next 2 years geared at providing laptops to all our teachers. This year, we have done 8,900, or we're in the process of doing that. So far, we have issued over 7,000 vouchers, almost 8,000. The take-up is 6,200. I did hear when President Smith spoke, some persons mentioning that devices are not available. That problem has now been largely solved. We have been in touch. We had a meeting last week with our vendors, and they have indeed indicated that the devices are now available. But I want to point out, too, that many schools, in fact, 28 schools that qualify have not submitted anything that would allow us to provide them with the vouchers. So we're still waiting to get information from 28 of the schools that are on the list to send us, simply send us the names of the teachers that are to benefit. We have provided that list, and we continue to do through the Ministry of Education to Dr. Troop's team. We spoke about this earlier in terms of the devices for PATH students. We have distributed those across the island, and those should be having a big impact on the education system and persons having devices that can help them with their work. The 13.5, we have distributed 5,300 of that, so we have the balance to distribute over the next couple months to get you to 25,000 additional tablets. So we're making a lot of effort at e-learning with the help of the minister, with the help of Dr. Nicely, to get devices to students. We have our contact information here. We do provide help desk services. So in the case of email, it's there, the help desk at elearning.ja.gov.jm. That's our email address. We have a WhatsApp number. We'll share the presentation, so you'll have it. We have a booth outside, and we have persons there who are able to take your questions. I know that there will be specific questions around redemption of vouchers, and we're asking you to speak with our team on the outside. Now, one other project I want to quickly mention, and it's in the area of innovation. We've been talking with Microsoft, and Minister Williams has also been engaged in the process of talking with Microsoft, and they want to work with us in these key areas of entrepreneurship, starting your own business, coding, artificial intelligence, and talking about success stories that especially persons of color in North America have had, and to pass that on to our children here. So we're currently engaged with them. We're working with the ministry to work out the details in terms of having a pilot project. Now, this project that they have called TEALS, which is Technology, Education, and Literacy in Schools, this program is really geared at upskilling our computer science teachers. So our computer science teachers will be exposed to more innovative ways of imparting education. Sometimes we think that we know it all, but Microsoft is a global organization that can help us and collaborate with us. And of course, they're not going to go outside of your curriculum necessarily, but it's really to help to upskill our teachers in terms of delivering computer science education. So that's my brief presentation. I really want to thank you for having me here. And of course, we continue to partner with the Jamaica Teachers Association and to really, really help our students as we try to make Jamaica a digitally engaged country. Thank you.
Another round of applause for e-learning Jamaica. Colleagues, we really are in trouble today. We are in trouble, we are in trouble, we are in trouble. I can hear the stomachs growling from up here. All right, I'm going to ask Dr. Dice to just step down to the front and invite Miss Alcian Pinnock to make a presentation to. Okay, I'll ask the chairman of the PAC, Miss Cadian Scott, to make a presentation to Dr. Dwayne Dice, and another presentation will be made after by Mrs. Stephanie Wright Grant to Mrs. Judy Dice. All right. Okay, thanks, Dr. Dice. All right. Okay, thank you. We'll ask Mrs. Stephanie Wright Grant to make a presentation to Mrs. Judy Dice. Mrs. Dice, please stand here for the photo opportunity. And we thank you for those initiatives that the teachers will benefit from and the students. Thank you so much. We had asked, I'm not seeing Melissa, so I'll call Dr. Sadie Harris-Mortley to make a presentation to our Honorable Minister. Minister, can you step to the front, please? Well, I'm in trouble. Melissa, I was looking for you. You need to come and join them for the photo opportunity. If she can do it, okay. Come on, Melissa, come quickly. Applaud them. Invite Miss Marsha Green. And we really wanted to make a presentation to Rev, so we have to find out outside of this session how we can send his package to him. We'd like to invite Marsha Green to make a presentation to Miss Petal James, Chief Retail Sales, JN Bank. All right, thank you. I have a few announcements, and Mr. Clayton has 1 minute, less than a minute, to make an announcement, followed by some important ones that I have, because we have to return by 2. Oh, did we say? Hold on, Doc. Just 1 second. Did we say what? So the vote of thanks will be last then, right? Sorry.
Colleagues, all good afternoon. I ask you to pardon me in adopting the protocol that was previously established. I want to take you to where my granny left me. She said, if you give someone a fish, you have fed them for a day. But if you teach them to fish, you would have fed them for a lifetime. We are on the cusp of history. And as a student of history, I must tell you that this year, the Jamaica Teachers Association is doing something never before done. For Teachers' Day token this year, you are going to receive a gift that keeps on giving. It is a wealth creation asset. I want to tell you that when you get it this year, put it down and do nothing, and next year it will be bigger. The following year it will be bigger. So I am encouraging all of us to sign up, and I know that the minister is listening, you know. And the minister may not want to give us things when we tell them how rich we are. But if the minister joins us, we will find that teachers may, in the long run, stop asking for so much money, you know. We may get enough through this avenue that we will be self-sufficient. And we will teach for the altruistic value. However, My encouragement today is that you sign up for the Teachers' Day token. I know many of you are told that it will be a small amount of money, but do not be perturbed by the foolish virgins, you know. The pastor told us today that there are two types of people, the Egyptians and the Israelites. Do not allow Egyptians to masquerade as Israelites and tell you not to participate. It is foolhardy. So, go to the J.T.A's website, jta.org.jm, and sign up for your Teachers' Day token. And see you in the land of the rich.
After that sales pitch, I'm sure Miss James from JN will recruit you. But please, all right, quick announcements, and the next voice you'll hear after this will be our president-elect who will move the vote of thanks. Colleagues, lunch will be in two main restaurants, Martha's Market and Red Snapper. If there's an overflow, the hotel will tell us where else. You will get your keys. You'll be able to collect your keys by at about 3 p.m. downstairs, the piano bar. You are also invited to cocktail reception put on by the hotel this evening at 7 p.m. sharp outside in the courtyard. And those were the quick announcements. We will resume by 2:30, and then we'll have to see how we return. I know the time is short. We are leaving at 1:45. I'm not looking at my time. So I'm just going to ask Mrs. Harrison to come and move this vote of thanks, and we'll have to make some adjustments. And then we will ask somebody who can sing beautifully to do grace for us. Oh, Mrs. Harrison will sing or say grace. Oh, okay, thanks.
Know that I am standing between you and lunch, and it's certainly not my practice to do, but I ask for you to excuse me with recognizing the established protocol. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Certainly this has been an awesome whetting appetite of an opening session, hasn't it? It has certainly paved the way for what this conference promises to be. And so the task is mine to thank all the persons who have participated thus far to making the success that this opening session of our 58th conference year has been. And so Reverend Rose, in his absence, certainly he has reminded us to hold on to that vision, to trust the process. I heard you learned well, remain the process. Yes, remain prayerful. Or Secretary General, and he certainly reminded us that we have to be specific in our language, define what bun it is that you're about. Be reflective, and for us to look at the man in the mirror as we ponder what education is to look like in this Jamaica land we love. To our Honorable Minister of Education, Youth and Information, Favour Williams, innovating education calls for education of the heart, she says. We need to produce citizens who are compassionate, caring, kind. And as I listened to her, I said, stream, minister, and not STEM. Support is needed for our teachers as we talk about trauma teaching, informed teaching. We need to provide psychologists, social workers, pastors, men and women of God who will support our colleagues, our teachers in the classroom to take on the urgent need that our schools are indicating that we're in need of. Thank you for updating us on all the initiatives of the Ministry of Education using this J.T.A. provided platform. To our financial partner, Miss Petal James, JN, every day you pay rent, you are building your landlord's equity. Pursue home ownership, colleagues, and we thank you for being with us today. Oh, little Genoy. And teacher, we can't leave out the teacher who prepared and trained her, Miss Goburn from the Refuge Primary in Trelawney. Bless you, you are a promise indeed. Our president, the man for the season, addressing the issues in a timely, frank, and humorous manner. We thank you for crafting this apt theme, guiding our conference today. Remember, because we become so busy sometimes that we have no time. We should become busy, so busy that we do not have time to criticize others. Dr. Margaret Chin, who so ably provided us with an overview of what's on the buffet for the remainder of this conference. Thank you and to your team and the volunteers of the PAC and the Education Research Committees, the staff, for creating this menu and offer. Thanks to Mr. Leon Chin. Mr. Leon Nash, you're not Chin at all. Mr. Leon Nash for introducing our guest speaker, employing his outstanding communication skills and competencies. Oh, our guest speaker, Dr. Dice. Oh my. Oh, we appreciate your presentation style. I certainly appreciated that. Reminding us of going back to basics. I think your entire presentation was encapsulated in our Governor General famous quote: there is nothing that is wrong with Jamaica that cannot be fixed with what's right with Jamaica. The solution is sitting in this very room. The innovators are in this very room. While we go to Finland and wherever else and we look at their models, we must create an education system by Jamaican for Jamaicans. Yes, and so our educators have what it takes within us, and what we need is more support from our employers and from the home and corporate Jamaica to get it done. It is within us. And so we thank you, sir. So many things, gems you shared with us, but our able co-pilot this today, Dr. Monteith, would have highlighted some of those gems that were shared by you. And so we move on quickly to thank, and certainly I cannot but thank you through your company, Education Solutions International, for those scholarships for the teachers and for the students. Bless you and your wife. Mr. Andrew Lee, CEO of eLearning, thank you, sir, for updating us with the e-learning initiatives. To anyone that I have left, the staff of the Jamaica Teachers Association, the persons who are working behind the scenes, or exhibitors, or partners, or media partners, everyone who has made this conference thus far, and it will be for the remaining 3 days, a success. Thank you so much. God bless you. We stand for prayer. We bow our heads. Father, we tell you thanks that you're a good God. We thank you for being with us thus far. And we thank you for the meal that we are about to eat and for the replenishing of our minds and our bodies as we return in quick time or in short time enough for us to continue the day's activities. Bless you now and we tell you thanks in Jesus' name. Amen. Bon appetit. Bless you. Bless you. And not born in the party, Mr. President.